Every night, hunters entered this same restful state you're experiencing now, processing the day's lessons while consciousness gently lowered towards sleep. Inside a cave lit by dying embers, 40,000 years ago, a group of hunters lie on beds made from carefully prepared furs, the softness accumulated over weeks of skilled work. The fire has burned down to glowing coals that pulse with soft orange light, creating dancing shadows on the stone walls that seem to breathe with life. Ancient sleep pattern establishment wasn't like modern sleep, that abrupt transition from wakefulness to unconsciousness. For Ice Age humans, the shift was gradual, natural, a slow lowering into rest that took hours. As darkness fell, the tribe gathered around fires, telling stories, working on tools and clothing, processing the day's experiences. The transition to sleep happened organically, people drifting off one by one, consciousness ebbing like a gentle tide. The hunters lying in the cave aren't frustrated about today's missed throws. There's no harsh self-criticism, no anxious replay of failures, no tension about tomorrow's performance. Instead, they're doing what you're doing right now, allowing the day's experiences to settle, letting their relaxed minds process and integrate everything that happened. One hunter mentally reviews his spear throw from this morning, but it's calm processing, not anxious analysis. He sees the trajectory, feels the release point in his body, notices where his weight shifted slightly early. This information settles into his nervous system like sediment drifting to the bottom of still water. Sleep scientists have discovered something remarkable in the past 15 years. The brain's process of skill consolidation, the transformation of practice into mastery, happens primarily during sleep and particularly during the transition into sleep. When you practice something during the day, you're creating raw neural material. But it's during sleep that this material gets organized, refined, integrated into permanent ability. Ancient hunters lived this truth without understanding the neuroscience. Every night's rest was a masterclass in skill development. Your brain is doing the same work right now, organizing and perfecting abilities you practice today. Maybe it's a physical skill, maybe it's understanding something new, maybe it's navigating a challenging relationship. Whatever you're learning, your sleeping mind will weave it into capability far more effectively than your conscious mind ever could. Ancient hunters trusted this completely. They knew that morning would bring clarity, that skills practiced in daylight would become mastery through nighttime processing. Another hunter, a woman who led today's successful deer hunt, lies with her eyes closed, breathing deeply and slowly. She's not quite asleep yet, existing in that borderland consciousness called hypnagogia, where thoughts become dreamlike and boundaries soften. In her mind, she sees the deer from this morning, but now she sees it from new angles, understanding its behavior more deeply. She feels its wariness, its constant alertness, its patterns of movement. This isn't conscious analysis. This is sleep learning, the process of deep integration that happens when thinking stops and knowing begins. The cave is warm from earth and embers, the temperature perfect for rest. Outside, wind moves through trees with a sound like breathing, like the earth itself is preparing for sleep. Inside, 7 hunters rest in various stages of consciousness, from drowsy wakefulness to deep sleep. There's safety here, both physical safety from predators and weather, and psychological safety from judgment and pressure. This feeling of complete security, of being exactly where you belong, allowed their nervous systems to enter states of profound rest where healing and learning happen at accelerated rates. You might feel that safety now, that sense of being held and protected. Your own sleeping space holds you like the cave held ancient hunters. The distance of 40,000 years collapses in this moment of shared human experience. They rested like you're resting.
They let go like you're letting go.
They trusted sleep like you're trusting it now. The lead hunter, an older man named something that translates roughly to steady hand, lies on his back looking up at the cave ceiling where smoke has painted permanent shadows. He's teaching himself even now in this pre-sleep state by mentally walking through tomorrow's hunt. Not with anxiety or pressure, but with the same gentle attention you might give to pleasant daydreams. He sees himself waking with the sun, feels his body moving through the cool morning air, imagines the patience of waiting and watching. Most importantly, he feels the successful throw, the perfect release, the satisfaction of provision for his people. Modern sports psychologists call this visualization, and they teach it as advanced technique. Ancient hunters did it naturally every night, in the perfect state for deep mental rehearsal. That twilight consciousness between wake and sleep, where the brain can't distinguish between vividly imagined experience and actual experience. They were programming their nervous systems for success, while you might scroll through devices, filling the pre-sleep space with stimulation instead of integration. The fire pops softly, sending a small shower of sparks upward. None of the hunters startle. They're accustomed to this, comfortable with it, this sound part of the safe, familiar pattern of bedtime. Their bodies know that fire sounds mean warmth and safety, that cave sounds mean shelter and protection, that the breathing of companions means community and belonging. Every sense confirms the same message. You're safe, you can rest, tomorrow is taken care of, let go completely. Let your own senses confirm your safety now. Feel the comfortable surface supporting your body. Notice the sounds around you, familiar and unthreatening. Recognize that you're in your safe space, your territory, your belonging place. This recognition allows deep rest, the kind that transforms ordinary practice into extraordinary ability. One of the younger hunters, barely into adulthood, had his first kill yesterday. Today he missed 3 throws in a row, and modern you might expect him to lie awake worrying, analyzing, doubting himself. But watch him now. He breathes slowly and deeply, his face completely relaxed. In his mind, those missed throws have already become lessons, not failures. His body is processing the mechanics, adjusting neural pathways, preparing for tomorrow's improvement. There's no shame, no anxiety, no story about not being good enough. Just natural learning, as effortless as plant growth, happening in the perfect soil of restful consciousness. This is what modern athletes struggle to achieve, this complete separation of outcome from identity, this pure learning mindset without ego interference. Ancient hunters lived it automatically because they had no concept of performance anxiety, no cultural story about winners and losers, no comparison to others except as inspiration for growth.
You threw the spear.
It flew where it flew. Your sleeping mind will adjust. Tomorrow you'll be better, simple, natural, peaceful, safe and warm in ancient wisdom. We'll discover the first secret of their perfect accuracy. A technique lost for 12,000 years. One that begins with understanding that stillness isn't the absence of movement, but rather the presence of perfect harmony with everything around you. The hunters drift deeper into sleep now, their breathing synchronized, their consciousness lowering together like members of a single organism. They're teaching you even in their sleep, showing you what humans can be when rest is trusted completely and tomorrow's perfection is built through tonight's surrender. Feel yourself drifting with them, part of that ancient family, held in the same web of safety and belonging. You're exactly where you need to be. The work is done. All that remains is rest and the transformation that happens in stillness. Or settling in exactly where you need to be right now. Your body already knows it's time to rest, just as countless generations settled before their hunts, finding that perfect state between waking and dreaming where ancient wisdom comes alive. For 300,000 years, humans have found peace in stories like this, and tonight, you're continuing that unbroken thread, stretching back through time. Imagine yourself transported to the Ice Age tundra, 40,000 years ago as twilight settles over an endless grassland. The air grows cool and perfectly still. In the distance, A lone hunter crouches in tall grass that reaches his waist, each blade golden in the fading light. He's been here for over an hour, completely motionless, watching a herd of caribou grazing slowly in his direction. His breathing has slowed to match the rhythm of their movement, each inhale and exhale synchronized with the gentle pulse of the approaching animals. Every muscle in his body appears relaxed, yet there's readiness in that relaxation, like a bowstring at rest that contains potential energy. This is the state between waking and dreaming, the twilight consciousness where perfect shots were born. His eyes are half closed, soft and unfocused, taking in the entire landscape rather than staring at any single point. The sunset paints everything in warm amber and deepening purple, and he seems to be part of the landscape itself, breathing with it,
Existing in it rather than separate from it. That same twilight state you're experiencing right now.
as your body sinks into comfort and your mind begins its gentle drift towards sleep. This is where ancient hunters found their extraordinary power. Modern snipers spend years in training facilities, working with sports psychologists and stress management experts, trying desperately to rediscover what your ancestors knew naturally at bedtime. They call it getting into the zone, finding flow state, achieving optimal performance consciousness. Ancient hunters simply called it preparing for sleep and the next day's hunt. Feel your own breathing slow as you imagine standing beside that ancient hunter in the deepening dusk. Your shoulders naturally relax into your pillow, just as his shoulders have settled into perfect stillness. There's no tension in maintaining this position for him, just as there's no tension in your body right now as you rest. The work is done. The preparation is complete. All that remains is this peaceful waiting, this gentle existence in the perfect moment. The caribou move closer, their hooves making soft sounds in the grass. The hunter's heartbeat has slowed to perhaps 50 beats per minute, a deep, restful rhythm identical to what humans experience in the deepest stages of sleep. Yet he's awake, aware, present. Scientists studying modern athletes have discovered this paradox, this state where the body rests while the mind remains gently alert. They call it paradoxical relaxation or restful awareness. Ancient hunters lived in this state for hours each day, particularly during the evening hunt when animals emerged from their own resting places. The light continues to fade and the hunter makes no movement. A younger caribou, curious and less cautious than the adults, wanders within 15 feet of his position. The animal actually looks directly at him but senses no threat, no predator energy, no danger. The hunter has become so deeply relaxed, so perfectly merged with the environment, that he no longer registers as a separate being.
He's grass. He's earth.
He's the cooling evening air itself. This isn't camouflage in the modern sense of visual deception. This is transformation through complete surrender to rest. You might notice your own boundaries softening right now. The distinction between your body and the comfortable surface supporting it becoming less defined.
This is natural.
This is ancient. This is the state where hunters found impossible accuracy because they were no longer separate selves trying to accomplish something, but rather part of the whole landscape expressing its natural order. The shot, when it came, would be as inevitable as sunset, as natural as breathing, as effortless as sleep. The lead caribou, a large female, moves into perfect position. The hunter's hand moves to his spear with dreamlike slowness, no sudden motion to startle the animals. His fingers wrap around the familiar wood with the same gentle certainty your fingers might hold a beloved object from childhood, something known so deeply that conscious thought isn't required. The weight of the spear, the balance point, the subtle grain of the wood, every aspect is as familiar as his own heartbeat. But he doesn't throw yet.
There's no urgency.
Time has dissolved into eternal now, each moment perfect and complete.
Modern people rush through life, always leaning forward into the next thing, the next achievement, the next obligation.
Ancient hunters existed in permanent presence. Waiting for prey wasn't boring, it was meditation, it was rest. It was the same peaceful existence you're experiencing right now as minutes dissolve and urgency fades into the background of awareness. The caribou takes another step. The angle shifts. Something in the hunter's body knows, without conscious calculation, that the geometry is perfect. The distance is ideal. The wind, barely a whisper, comes from the right direction. His body has processed thousands of similar moments, stored in muscle memory built across years of childhood play and adolescent practice and adult mastery. This knowing lives in his bones, in his tissues, in the same part of the brain that controls breathing and heartbeat, functions that happen without thought. You're exactly where ancient hunters found their power, completely still, completely relaxed, in that perfect state between wake and sleep where the body rests and the mind drifts gently through awareness. This is where impossible things become simple. This is where effort transforms into effortlessness. This is the space you're entering right now, but to understand why they never missed, why Stone Age hunters possessed accuracy that modern snipers with all their technology and training cannot match, we must journey deeper into the Ice Age evening, where hunters prepared for sleep and simultaneously prepared for tomorrow's perfection. We must understand what happened in those hours between day and night, when consciousness shifted and ancient wisdom flowed like water into the waiting vessel of the relaxed mind. The hunter remains motionless as full darkness approaches. The moment hasn't arrived yet.
His body knows.
Patience isn't willpower for him. It's natural state, the same way sleep is natural for you right now. There's nowhere else to be, nothing else to do. Just this eternal present moment, stretching peacefully toward the inevitable perfect action that will arise of its own accord. Feel that peace now.
Feel that patience.
You have all the time in the world. The ancient fires that warmed your ancestors are warming you right now across impossible distance through the unbroken connection of human experience. You're safe. You're home. You're exactly where countless generations found rest before you. You're exactly where ancient hunters found their power, completely still, completely relaxed, breathing with the natural rhythm of rest. Imagine now a single hunter in tall grass under the full moon, so motionless that he's become invisible not through hiding, but through transformation. This isn't the stillness of holding your breath or freezing in fear. This is the stillness of deep meditation, of profound relaxation, the same quality of stillness your body naturally achieves in the deepest stages of sleep. Watch him now in your mind's eye. His breath matches the wind moving through the grass around him. When the breeze picks up, his breathing quickens slightly. When the air goes still, his breath becomes barely perceptible. This isn't conscious mimicry. This is autonomic synchronization. His nervous system so relaxed and open that it automatically entrains to environmental rhythms. Modern meditation practitioners spend decades trying to achieve what he does naturally through a lifetime of resting deeply in nature. A rabbit emerges from its burrow 10 feet away, nose twitching, eyes alert for any danger. It looks directly at the hunter but senses no threat. The rabbit's acute predator detection, honed across millions of years of evolution, finds nothing alarming. The hunter's heart rate has dropped to the low 50s, his stress hormones nearly absent, his electromagnetic field calm and non-threatening.
He's not pretending to be safe, he is safe.
He's not hunting the rabbit anyway, just existing peacefully in shared space. Now a fox trots past, so close the hunter could reach out and touch it. The fox pauses, sniffs the air, looks around with typical fox wariness. It doesn't see the hunter as separate from the grass and earth. More importantly, it doesn't feel the hunter. Predators emit a particular energy, a tension, an intention to harm. This hunter emits only peace, only rest, only the same quality of presence that sleeping animals have. This is his secret, though he would never call it a secret. It's just how you be when you're completely relaxed. Feel that calm now in your own body. Notice how your breathing has naturally slowed and deepened as you rest here. Your heartbeat steady and peaceful. Tension dissolving from muscles you didn't realize were tight. This is the foundation of ancient accuracy. You can't shoot perfectly from tension. You can't aim truly from stress. Every missed shot in history began with a body that wasn't fully at rest. 3 deer walk through the moonlit meadow, grazing peacefully within 20 feet of the motionless hunter. The lead doe looks up frequently, scanning for danger, her enormous ears rotating to catch any suspicious sound. She looks at the hunter 3 different times, her eyes passing over him without recognition. He's become landscape.
He's become earth.
He's become the peaceful presence of night itself. This transformation, through complete relaxation, is something modern hunters cannot achieve, cannot even imagine, because they arrive in nature already tense, already in pursuit mode, already separated from the environment by intention and anxiety. The hunter could take any of these deer easily, but that's not why he's here tonight. He's practicing something more important than killing. He's practicing being, existing, resting so completely that all separation dissolves. Tomorrow, when he does need to provide food for his family, this practice will make the shot inevitable.
How do you miss when you're not separate from the target?
How does the spear fly anywhere but true when thrower, spear, and prey are all expressions of the same unified field of awareness? Modern snipers call it getting into the zone, and they train for years trying to access it. Ancient hunters knew a profound secret. The zone isn't something you enter, it's something you never leave when you stay relaxed. You're in it right now as you rest here. Boundaries softening, separation dissolving, consciousness spreading out to include everything rather than contracting into isolated self. The hunter remains motionless for another 2 hours as various animals pass by, none detecting his presence. A lynx walks within 5 feet, its predator instincts fully active, yet it perceives no threat and no prey. Just earth, grass, moonlight, peace. This is the power of complete nervous system calm, of stress hormones dropped to zero,
of existing in the same state you're moving into now as sleep approaches.
That state where you're part of everything rather than separate from anything. When he finally rises and walks back to camp, moving slowly and peacefully through the night, he's taught himself something more valuable than any technique. He's reminded his body what it feels like to exist without tension, without separation, without the exhausting effort of maintaining boundaries and defenses. Tomorrow's hunt will begin from this remembered peace, and the shot will fly true because it won't be his shot anymore. It will be the shot arriving naturally from stillness, like rain falling or sun rising, inevitable expression of perfect conditions meeting readiness. Your own body is learning this now as you rest, remembering what it knew before tension became habit, before separation seemed necessary, before you forgot that you're part of everything rather than apart from everything.
Ancient hunters never forgot.
They practiced remembering every evening as consciousness lowered towards sleep. This stillness that speaks louder than movement, this peace that accomplishes more than effort, this relaxation that contains all power. Feel it now. Not trying to feel it, just noticing it's already here. The deep rest that transforms everything. The perfect calm that makes impossible things simple. You're exactly where they were in that state between wake and sleep, where truth lives and mastery is born. Your eyes are growing heavy now, naturally softening as rest deepens. And in this softening lies an ancient secret about seeing. A young Ice Age hunter sits beside an elder on a cliff overlooking a vast valley at dawn. The young man stares intently at the valley floor, eyes focused hard, searching for the caribou herd they're tracking. The elder places a gentle hand on his shoulder and speaks words that translate roughly to "stop looking, start seeing." The young hunter doesn't understand, so the elder continues. Hard eyes see only one thing. Soft eyes see everything at once. The eyes you have right now, just before sleep finds you, these are the hunter's eyes. The young man lets his vision soften, stops straining to see, allows his gaze to rest gently on the whole landscape rather than searching for specific details. And suddenly, miraculously, he sees movement at the valley's edge that his hard-focused staring completely missed. The caribou were there all along, but his tense searching made them invisible. This is the paradox of soft-eye vision, rediscovered by modern fighter pilots who realized that pilots scanning hard for enemy aircraft missed targets. That peripheral awareness caught effortlessly. Your drowsy eyes right now, heavy and unfocused, have this ancient power. They see more by trying less. They catch movement and pattern that alert straining misses completely. This is the hunter's gift, and it lives in you right now. Feel it yourself as you rest here. Let your eyes soften, not quite closed, but not quite open. That drowsy, half-aware state. You can sense the whole space around you without looking anywhere specific. Shapes, shadows, light, movement if anything moves, all perceived simultaneously without effort. This is how hunters tracked animals across vast landscapes without exhausting themselves through intense focus. They watched everything by watching nothing in particular. The elder hunter taught that animals can feel hard eyes on them. That focused stare, that predatory attention, creates tension that prey animals sense from remarkable distances. But soft eyes, the relaxed gaze of someone almost asleep, creates no disturbance in the field of awareness. You can watch prey for hours with soft eyes, and they never feel observed, never grow nervous, never leave. Hard eyes scatter animals. Soft eyes allow them to stay. Modern research in peripheral awareness confirms what ancient hunters knew intuitively. The edges of vision process movement and pattern faster than central focus. Fighter pilots who softly watch the whole sky respond to threats a full second faster than pilots who hard-scan sections. That second means survival. For ancient hunters, it meant the difference between eating and starving. The soft-eyed hunter saw the predator approaching from the side, while the hard-eyed hunter, focused on prey ahead, became prey himself. You're experiencing soft-eye vision right now as rest deepens and focus naturally diffuses. This isn't weakness or inattention. This is enhanced awareness, the state where you see more because you're trying less. Ancient hunters practiced this every evening as light faded and their eyes naturally softened towards sleep. The transition from day vision to night vision isn't just physiological adjustment to darkness. It's a complete shift in how seeing happens, from focused grasping to receptive allowing. 3 hunters lie on a hillside at dusk, watching a valley for signs of game. Their eyes are soft, half-closed, taking in the whole landscape. One of them sees a flicker of movement 300 yards away that the others initially miss. Not because his eyes are sharper, but because his gaze is softer, more receptive, less controlling. He doesn't point or say anything, just continues watching with that gentle attention, and within moments, the other hunters see it too. A small herd of deer moving through brush that's almost the same color as their hides. With hard eyes, focused vision, direct staring, those deer are effectively invisible. The tiny differences in color and texture lost in the intensity of looking. But with soft eyes, peripheral awareness, diffuse attention, the pattern of their movement stands out clearly against the stillness of the landscape.
This is why they never missed.
They saw prey that other hunters, tensely searching, walked right past. Seeing everything meant seeing what mattered. Let your own vision soften even more now, that comfortable blurring that comes with deep rest. You're not trying to see anything, not focusing on anything, just allowing your awareness to rest gently on whatever's there. This is the hunter's vision, the seeing that sees everything by grasping nothing. Fighter pilots train for years to rediscover it. Athletes call it soft focus or wide-angle awareness. Ancient hunters called it seeing, and they lived in it constantly. The young hunter practices his new skill through the evening, letting his eyes soften every time he catches himself straining to see. At first, it feels vulnerable, like he's not watching carefully enough, not being vigilant enough. But the elder reassures him.
Hard eyes come from fear.
Soft eyes come from peace. Which state shoots better? The answer is obvious. You can't shoot accurately from tension. Every skilled action flows from relaxation. As darkness deepens and the hunters prepare for sleep, their soft eye vision transitions seamlessly into the receptive awareness of dreams. The same way of seeing that tracked animals during the day now tracks images and insights through the landscape of sleep. There's no break, no boundary, just continuous seeing that adapts to whether eyes are open or closed, whether consciousness is waking or dreaming. Your own eyes are so heavy now, soft and restful, seeing in that ancient way without effort or strain.
This is more than a technique.
This is a state of being, a way of existing in the world where you're not separate from what you see, where seeing is relationship rather than observation, where soft eyes reveal what hard eyes forever miss. Tomorrow, when you open your eyes, remember this softness, this receptive allowing. Bring the hunter's vision into your day and see how much more becomes visible when you stop straining to look. With soft eyes, they discovered patterns in animal movement that revealed the next secret. Something about the way all living things move through invisible highways written in the landscape itself. Safe and warm in ancient wisdom, your mind processes patterns like hunters did each night, watching invisible roads appear in the landscape of memory and dream.
Animals don't move randomly.
They follow highways invisible to hard eyes but obvious to soft awareness. Routes written in wind patterns, water sources, seasonal rhythms, an ancient habit passed down through countless generations of deer, bison, caribou. A hunter lies in his sleeping furs, eyes closed but not yet sleeping, reviewing the day's observations in that peaceful way you review your day as rest approaches. The deer he tracked today always turned at the old oak, that massive tree struck by lightning years ago.
Not sometimes, always. Even when pursued, even when frightened, they turned there. This isn't random.
This is an invisible road, a decision point built into their movement pattern across generations. The bison he watched for 3 days always drink upstream at dawn. Never downstream, never midday, always upstream at dawn. This pattern is written so deep in their behavior that nothing changes it. Weather doesn't change it. Season doesn't change it. The presence of predators doesn't change it. It's an invisible road, reliable as sunrise, and tomorrow's hunt will position itself along this road because the road never moves. These patterns become dreams, and dreams become perfect knowledge. The hunter doesn't consciously analyze or strategize. He simply allows the day's observations to settle into his relaxed awareness, and his sleeping mind does the work of integration and understanding. Morning brings clarity he didn't consciously create. He wakes knowing where to position himself, not because he figured it out, but because the knowing emerged naturally from restful processing. Your brain is doing this same work right now, taking today's scattered information and weaving it into understanding.
Ancient hunters trusted this sleep processing completely.
They didn't lie awake analyzing and planning. They observed during the day, rested at night, and woke with wisdom. Modern people try to figure everything out consciously, missing the vastly more powerful processing that happens when thinking stops and knowing begins. Watch another hunter in his evening rest, mentally tracking the paths his prey follow. The mammoth herd migrates south along the river valley, but they always stop at 3 specific places. Always. These stopping points aren't random. Their confluences of good grazing, water access, and safety from predators. The herd has used these stops for generations, their collective memory more reliable than any individual animal's awareness. Tomorrow's hunt doesn't chase the herd. It waits at the stopping point, patient as stone, knowing the invisible road brings the prey exactly here. This is pattern recognition at a level modern humans struggle to imagine. Not intellectual analysis, but intuitive knowing. Not conscious mapping, but automatic awareness. The same way you know your way home without thinking about each turn. The same way you recognize faces without analyzing features. The same way you catch something falling without calculating trajectory. Ancient hunters lived in this knowing constantly because they trusted pattern recognition more than logical analysis. One hunter notices that rabbits always emerge from the warren at sunset, but only when wind comes from the west. East wind keeps them underground. South or north wind makes them cautious, emerging slowly. West wind brings confidence and quick emergence. This isn't coincidence across hundreds of observations. This is invisible road, reliable pattern, the kind of knowing that makes hunting inevitable rather than hopeful. Tomorrow evening, if wind comes from the west, he'll be waiting at the warren because the invisible road is as real as the ground beneath him. Feel your own mind relaxing into pattern recognition now, not trying to figure anything out, just allowing connections to form naturally in the spacious awareness that comes with deep rest. You've noticed patterns today that you haven't consciously recognized yet. As you drift towards sleep, those patterns are organizing themselves, creating understanding you'll wake with tomorrow, knowing you didn't know you'd learned. The lead hunter has tracked these invisible roads for 40 years. His knowledge is vast but not intellectual. He doesn't remember facts. He knows the way you know how to walk, automatically, without thought. The deer turn at the lightning tree. The bison drink upstream at dawn. The caribou rest in the high meadow during midday heat. The elk avoid the western valley when wind is from the east.
These aren't memories.
They're integrated awareness woven into his being through thousands of nights of rest processing. Younger hunters learn these invisible roads not through teaching, but through observation and rest. They watch the elder hunters position themselves, see where success happens, and their sleeping minds extract the patterns without conscious effort. "Why did you wait there?" a young hunter asks after a successful hunt. The elder looks confused by the question. "Because that's where they always are," he answers, as if it's obvious as sky color. The invisible roads are visible to him. This is why they never missed, not just because their throws were accurate, but because they were always in the right place. Modern hunters scatter their efforts, covering ground, hoping to encounter prey. Ancient hunters waited on invisible roads, knowing prey would arrive because prey always arrive on these roads. Half of accuracy is position, and position comes from reading patterns that animals themselves don't consciously know they follow. Let these invisible roads appear in your own life now. Patterns you've observed but not yet consciously recognized. Reliable rhythms in people and situations around you. Your relaxed mind sees them clearly when your busy mind stops interfering. Trust this deeper knowing, this pattern recognition that emerges from rest rather than analysis. As the hunters drift deeper into sleep, the invisible roads appear in dreams, animals moving along them in clear vision, showing tomorrow's hunt before it happens. Not prophecy, but pattern projection, the brain's natural ability to predict based on reliable rhythms. They dream accurate dreams because they observe carefully and rest completely, allowing truth to surface without forcing understanding. These pattern dreams led to the most powerful secret of all, a shooting technique impossible for modern minds caught in overthinking, a way of throwing that bypassed conscious control entirely and emerged from pure embodied knowledge built across years and processed through thousands of nights of restful integration. Feel your breath matching ancient rhythms as wisdom unfolds. that gentle breathing of deep rest where knowing lives beyond thinking. Watch now a hunter rising from evening rest, his body loose and relaxed, mind peaceful, from an hour of lying still as twilight gathered. He stands, picks up his spear with the casual familiarity of picking up something he's held 10,000 times, and without looking at any target, without taking aim, without pausing to calculate or adjust, he throws. The spear flies in a perfect arc across 30 feet of space and strikes the hide target dead center. The same spot 100 previous throws have found. This isn't luck. This isn't even skill in the conscious sense. This is pure embodied knowledge, action without thought. The no-aim throw that ancient hunters developed through a process modern people can barely comprehend because it requires complete trust in unconscious competence. Modern snipers are taught to aim,
Calculate range. Adjust for wind.
account for gravity drop, think through the shot sequence. This conscious control creates tension, and tension creates error. Ancient hunters spent years throwing spears in play, in practice, in actual hunts, building neural pathways so deep that conscious mind became an obstacle rather than a tool. The best throws happened when thinking stopped completely. Your own best moments in life have this quality. Playing an instrument and suddenly you're not playing anymore. The music is playing itself through you. Catching something falling and your hand arrives perfectly without calculation. Speaking from the heart and words flow without planning. Cooking a familiar dish and your hands know what to do without recipe. These moments of unconscious competence are where excellence lives, and ancient hunters lived there constantly. Watch a young hunter learning. At first, every throw is conscious. He thinks about grip, about stance, about arm angle, about release point. His throws are inconsistent, sometimes good, mostly mediocre, occasionally terrible. But his teacher doesn't give him corrections or technique adjustments. The teacher simply says, throw more and rest well. The student doesn't understand, but he follows instructions.
Throw during the day.
Rest completely at night. Thousands of throws. Hundreds of nights of deep sleep processing. Slowly, mysteriously, accuracy improves. Not because he's thinking better, but because he's thinking less. The throws that work best are the ones where his mind wanders, where he's relaxed and peaceful, where the spear seems to release itself. Years pass. Now he's the one teaching, and he gives the same mysterious advice: throw more, rest well. He can't explain how accuracy happened because it didn't happen consciously. It happened in that space beyond thinking where your sleeping mind now resides. Feel that space now, where you're not trying to understand these words, but understanding happens anyway, where you're not trying to relax, but relaxation has arrived, where breath and heartbeat happen without control, because the deepest wisdom operates beneath conscious awareness. This is where the no-aim throw lives, in the same territory as heartbeat and breath and sleep itself. One hunter becomes famous throughout the region for never missing. Other tribes send young hunters to learn his secret. He has no secret to teach.
I pick up the spear, he tells them, and it flies where it needs to go.
They think he's being mysterious, withholding technique. He's being completely honest. The throw happens without him. He's just the vehicle, and the vehicle works perfectly when consciousness doesn't interfere. Modern snipers struggle because they think too much. Ancient hunters succeeded because they learned in sleep, processed through rest, and trusted their bodies completely. The years of throwing created neural networks that calculate trajectory faster than thought, adjust for wind instantly, sense distance automatically, release at the perfect microsecond. But this only works when conscious mind gets out of the way. And conscious mind only gets out of the way when the nervous system is completely calm. That's why evening practice was sacred time, not because the practice itself was special, but because practicing in the peaceful state near sleep in that twilight consciousness where thinking fades and being takes over, built the kind of embodied knowledge that works under pressure. Morning practice with mind fresh and alert built different pathways. Evening practice with mind soft and drifting built the no-aim throw. You're in that state right now. Learning in the way that creates deepest competence. Absorbing these truths not as intellectual information but as felt knowing. Your body understands the no-aim throw even if your mind doesn't fully grasp it.
That's perfect.
Body understanding is what matters. Intellectual understanding is just noise that interferes with natural excellence. Remember a time you did something perfectly without thinking about it. Maybe catching your phone as it slipped from your hand, your fingers closing around it before fear even registered. Maybe parallel parking in a tight spot while talking to a passenger, your hands and feet coordinating in perfect sequence without conscious attention. Maybe dancing and suddenly the moves are just happening, flowing from some source deeper than thought. That's the hunter's way, alive in you right now, ready to emerge whenever thinking stops interfering. The no-aim throw wasn't just physical technique, it was trust. Trust in thousands of hours of practice. Trust in hundreds of nights of sleep processing. Trust in the body's wisdom that exceeds the mind's capacity for control. Ancient hunters trusted completely because they had no concept of the anxious self-monitoring that plagues modern people. They threw the spear and it went where it went, and their sleeping mind made adjustments, and next time it went truer. Simple, natural, perfect. As you rest here now, your own body is integrating lessons from today, building competencies you'll wake with tomorrow, strengthening abilities you didn't know you were developing. Trust this process the way ancient hunters trusted it. Sleep isn't escape from learning. Sleep is where learning becomes mastery. The no-aim throw proved this every single day for 300,000 years. But this instinctive accuracy came from deeper wisdom still, an understanding of time itself that modern people have completely lost, a way of existing where urgency dissolves and eternal presence creates the space where impossible things become inevitable. Time fades as ancient stories unfold, just as it did for hunters between day and night, that delicious dissolution of hours and minutes into pure present moment. Modern people rush. Appointments, deadlines, schedules, always late.
Always behind.
Always leaning forward into the next thing. Ancient hunters existed in eternal now, and this fundamentally changed what they were capable of achieving. Watch a hunter waiting for prey in the golden light of late afternoon. He's been in this position for 3 hours. Modern, you might think he's bored, impatient, suffering through the wait. Look at his face. Complete peace.
No tension.
No impatience. No clock ticking in his mind, counting down to some other obligation. This moment is perfect and complete. Waiting isn't the price he pays for hunting. Waiting is hunting. The stillness itself is the activity. He's not enduring time until something happens. He's existing fully in time as it unfolds. This is why they never missed.
They had all the time in the world.
That state you're in now, where minutes dissolve and urgency fades and you couldn't say how long you've been resting because time has become irrelevant, this was their constant reality. Not special meditation.
Not altered state.
Just normal consciousness for people who never learned that time is something to fight against. Another hunter crafts a spear point, and the work takes 6 hours. Not because the task requires 6 hours, but because each moment of the work is given complete attention, savored, inhabited fully. His mind doesn't wander to what he'll do after this, or what he should have done earlier, or how much progress he should have made by now. The stone under his hands in this exact moment is all that exists. The tap of his hammer against the flaking stone is the only sound in the universe. This is flow state, and he lives in it always because he never left it. Sleep research shows that rushed minds can't enter deep rest. The sense of time pressure, even if unstated, keeps stress hormones elevated and prevents the nervous system from fully releasing. Ancient hunters lived in permanent flow because they lived in permanent now. Their sleep was deeper, their rest more restorative, their processing more complete, all because they never learned that time is an enemy racing past. As you drift here, you're experiencing their normal consciousness, that timeless comfort where healing and learning happen automatically. Feel how time feels right now.
Hours could pass or minutes, it genuinely doesn't matter.
You're not tracking duration.
You're not monitoring progress.
You're not checking how much longer until something else. This moment is complete. This breath is whole. This comfort is sufficient. Ancient hunters lived here, in this same spacious awareness, and it made them capable of things modern people consider superhuman, but were simply natural for humans who never learned to rush. A young hunter asks an elder how to develop patience. The elder looks confused. Patience? There's nothing to wait for. You're already here.
This is all there is.
The young hunter doesn't understand, still trapped in the modern mindset that was actually ancient for him too. That restless, forward-leaning consciousness that wonders when the good part starts. The elder just smiles and returns to his spearwork, each tap of the hammer falling in its own perfect time, never rushed, never delayed, each moment complete unto itself. This slow forever created accuracy because accuracy requires presence, and presence requires time to stop being an enemy. When you rush a throw, even slightly, even unconsciously, the body tenses and the trajectory shifts. When you exist in eternal now, the throw happens when the throw happens, emerging from conditions rather than being forced by will. The hunter didn't decide when to throw. The moment announced itself and the spear released, and the timing was perfect because it was the only timing, arising naturally from complete presence. You've experienced this too. Times when you were so absorbed in something that hours passed like minutes. Creating art, playing games, deep conversation, making love. Any flow state where self-consciousness disappeared and you were just doing, just being, just existing in pure present.
That's daily life for ancient hunters.
Not special moments, but basic reality. They couldn't miss because they were always present, and presence is where excellence lives. Watch a group of hunters tracking a herd across 3 days. They move when the herd moves, rest when the herd rests, exist in perfect synchronization with the rhythm of the animals they're following. No one suggests pushing harder to catch up. No one worries about taking too long. The hunt takes as long as it takes, and every moment of the hunt is the hunt, equally valuable, equally present. On the third evening, they're in perfect position and the kill is easy because they were never trying to get to this moment. They were fully in every moment leading here. Modern people trying to meditate struggle with this. The mind keeps reaching forward, wondering when the peace will arrive, checking if they're doing it right, monitoring progress towards some imagined goal. Ancient hunters never learned this grasping, so they never had to unlearn it. They were where they were when they were there, and this radical acceptance of present moment created the psychological foundation for perfect accuracy. Let this slow forever embrace you now.
You're not trying to get to sleep.
You're not waiting for rest to arrive. You're already resting. This moment is complete. Your breathing right now is perfect. The comfort you feel right now is sufficient. Nothing needs to change.
Nowhere else to be. Nothing else to achieve.
Just this eternal now stretching peacefully in all directions. The same now ancient hunters inhabited as they waited for prey that would arrive in its own perfect time. In this slow forever, they developed a connection to prey that modern hunters call impossible, a relationship built through hundreds of hours of patient observation, through dreams where boundaries dissolved, through a form of empathy so complete that hunter and hunted became one being wearing two bodies.
As they drifted to sleep each night,
so do you now safe in ancient understanding. Watch how hunters dreamed not just of hunting but of being hunted, of running with the herd,
of existing inside the consciousness of the animals they needed to understand completely.
A hunter lies in his furs as sleep approaches, and in that borderland state, his imagination takes him inside the deer's experience. He feels the deer's constant vigilance, that awareness of every sound, every shadow, every scent on the wind. He feels the safety of the herd, dozens of eyes and ears creating collective security. He feels the fear when a wolf's smell drifts downwind, the immediate tension rippling through every body simultaneously. He feels the relief of the high meadow where sight lines are clear and escape routes are many. This isn't fantasy or imagination. This is empathy so deep it becomes temporary identity. Night after night of these dreams, these journeys into the lived experience of prey, created understanding impossible to achieve through observation alone. The hunter woke knowing deer intimately, not as targets but as relatives, not as food but as family, wearing different shapes. This love made them perfect hunters because they never missed, because they understood so completely that prediction became certainty. Modern people think empathy weakens.
Ancient hunters proved empathy perfects.
The greatest athletes understand opponents deeply, feeling their patterns, anticipating their moves, existing briefly inside their decision-making. The greatest artists feel their subjects completely, whether painting landscapes or sculpting figures. You understand people in your life by imagining their experience, walking briefly in their consciousness, feeling what they feel. Ancient hunters took this to ultimate expression, becoming prey in dreams, so that waking hunts were reunions rather than pursuits. A young hunter struggles with his first solo hunt. He can track the caribou, but he can't predict them. They turn when he expects them to continue. They run when he expects them to settle. His shots miss because he's always aiming at where the animal was, not where it will be. An elder teaches him the dream technique. Before sleep, imagine being the caribou.
Feel what they feel.
Experience their world from inside their awareness. The young hunter practices this reluctantly. It seems too simple, too strange. But he's desperate. So he lies down that evening and genuinely tries to become caribou in his imagination. He feels the weight of antlers, the power of legs built for running, the group consciousness of the herd. He feels the wariness that never stops, the scanning that never rests. He feels the routes they prefer, the places they avoid, the rhythms of their day. And something shifts in his understanding, something fundamental and permanent. Next day's hunt is different. He doesn't track the caribou as enemy.
He moves with them as family.
He knows when they'll turn because he feels the landscape through their awareness. He knows when they'll bolt because he senses the threat the way they sense it. And his shot is perfect because he's not shooting at a separate being. He's completing a movement that began in shared consciousness. The caribou gives itself to him because they're not separate anymore. This dream connection wasn't mysticism or magic. It was advanced empathy built through nightly practice, through the willingness to surrender human identity temporarily and exist inside prey consciousness. Your own capacity for this lives right now in your drifting mind, in that space where boundaries dissolve and you could imagine being anyone, anything, experiencing the world through different eyes, different fears, different joys. Feel that capacity now. That ability to step outside yourself and imagine another's experience. Ancient hunters developed this to astonishing degree because they practiced every night in the perfect state for boundary dissolution. That twilight consciousness where your own identity loosens and you could be anyone.
Could be anything. Could run with the herd, or fly with the birds, or swim with the fish.
They used this state intentionally, becoming prey in dreams so that waking hunts were informed by insider knowledge. One hunter was famous for understanding mammoth herds so deeply he could predict their movements days in advance. Other hunters thought he had supernatural gifts. He had only empathy practiced nightly for decades. He dreamed as mammoth, felt their ancient memories, their seasonal rhythms, their group decisions. He woke knowing them better than they knew themselves because his conscious human awareness could observe what they experienced unconsciously. This combination of empathy and awareness created perfect prediction. You dream of people in your life regularly, working through relationships, understanding them more deeply, processing interactions. Ancient hunters did this deliberately with prey, using dream state to achieve understanding that transformed their effectiveness. They never missed because they knew exactly what the animal would do. Not from intellectual analysis, but from having been the animal in hundreds of dreams, having felt its life from inside its experience. A hunter sits with his grandson at bedtime, teaching him how to dream with prey. You must love them, he says. Not human love, but the love of deep knowing, of family recognition across species. You must feel gratitude that they give their lives to feed you. You must honor their courage and their beauty. And when you dream as them, you must genuinely become them, not pretending but transforming. The grandson doesn't fully understand, but he practices, and over years the technique becomes natural. And eventually his accuracy surpasses even his grandfather's because he loves the prey more deeply. This is why they never missed. Not just because their throws were accurate, but because their relationship to prey was sacred, built through nightly journeys into shared consciousness. They became what they hunted, and how do you miss when there's no separation between hunter and hunted, when the shot is completion of shared intention rather than violation of separate being? Let these ideas settle into your drifting consciousness now, not as concepts to analyze, but as truths to absorb. Your capacity for empathy, for imagination, for temporarily becoming another, this is ancient power still alive in you. You use it with people you love.
Ancient hunters used it with everything they needed to understand. And it worked.
It worked so perfectly that their accuracy seems impossible until you understand the foundation. They never missed because they became what they hunted, in dreams first, then in waking life. This dream connection revealed the final secret about accuracy itself. The reason why modern snipers with all their technology will never match Stone Age precision, a truth about motivation and meaning that transforms everything we think we understand about human capability. Ancient wisdom absorption begins now, processing for tomorrow's awakening, settling deep into the part of you that learns through rest rather than effort. Modern snipers have better weapons, better optics, better training facilities, better understanding of physics and ballistics. They have rangefinders and wind meters and ballistic computers. Yet ancient hunters were more accurate.
Not occasionally, consistently. The difference wasn't in the tools.
The difference was in the soul. Watch a modern sniper on deployment, lying in position for hours in foreign territory. He's far from home, far from family, shooting at people he doesn't know for reasons that may not be entirely clear to him. He's trained superbly, conditioned expertly, but there's a hollowness in the activity, a disconnection between the action and deeper meaning. The shot matters tactically, but not existentially. It's a job, a duty, a task to complete. And this absence of deep meaning creates microscopic tensions that affect accuracy in ways too subtle to measure but too significant to ignore. Now watch an ancient hunter preparing for the evening hunt. His family hasn't eaten well in 3 days. His children are hungry but not complaining, waiting patiently for what father will provide. His elderly parents depend on him, their hunting days behind them, their survival contingent on his success. His pregnant wife needs protein for the growing baby. Every person in his small band of 20 relatives is counting on this hunt for survival, not abstract survival, but immediate, physical, desperate need. The stakes transform everything.
This isn't practice.
This isn't sport. This isn't even work in the modern sense. This is sacred responsibility, life and death compressed into single moments, love expressed through the perfection of skill. And this meaning, this existential weight, creates a focus and commitment that cannot be replicated in comfortable circumstances, cannot be simulated in training, cannot be accessed without genuine necessity. Research shows that meaning improves performance dramatically across every domain. Athletes with deep connection to their sport's purpose outperform equally skilled athletes competing for ego or fame. Workers who understand their work's impact produce higher quality than workers who see tasks as arbitrary. Students who grasp subject relevance learn faster than students memorizing for grades. Meaning matters. Ancient hunters had ultimate meaning, survival with reverence, provision with gratitude, life and death united in single action. But it wasn't just survival pressure. Plenty of desperate hunters missed. The secret was the spiritual dimension, the relationship between hunter and prey that transformed killing into ceremony, violence into sacred exchange. Before the hunt, prayers and rituals, apologies to the animal's spirit, promises to honor the gift, explanations to the prey. My children need you, my elders honor you, your sacrifice feeds the people, your death has meaning beyond your ending. This spiritual dimension wasn't superstition. It was psychological preparation creating the mental state where perfect accuracy emerges. When you kill with gratitude, you kill cleanly. When you take life with reverence, you don't wound carelessly. When you understand the profound gift involved in another being's death, feeding your family, you cannot afford to miss, not just practically but spiritually. The animal deserves your perfection. Anything less dishonors the gift. Feel this weight now in your relaxed state, not as burden, but as clarification. Everything matters. Every action has consequence. Every skill expressed with full heart works better than skill performed casually.
You know this from your own life.
Work you care about deeply produces results that surprise you. Creative projects fueled by genuine passion exceed technical skill. Conversations where you're fully present create connection beyond the words spoken. Ancient hunters brought this complete presence to every hunt because every hunt mattered completely. A hunter misses a throw, and the wounded deer runs off to die slowly, suffering unnecessarily. Meat wasted because predators will find the carcass before humans can track it down. The hunter doesn't just feel disappointed, he feels ashamed. He dishonored the deer's sacrifice. He failed his family. He violated the sacred contract between hunter and hunted. This shame isn't neurotic self-criticism. It's appropriate response to genuine failure of responsibility, and it motivates the kind of dedication to improvement that casual practice never achieves. Modern snipers practice to maintain employment, to satisfy commanders, to uphold professional standards. Ancient hunters practiced because their children's lives depended on their accuracy, because prey animals deserved clean deaths, because the entire cosmos was watching whether they honored their role in the web of life. This existential motivation created dedication beyond anything modern, comfortable life can generate. But here's the paradox. This intense pressure didn't create tension. It created focus. The stakes were so high that distraction became impossible, worry became irrelevant, self-consciousness disappeared entirely. When your child is starving, you don't wonder if you look good throwing. You throw perfectly because nothing else exists except the throw and the need it serves. Modern people experience performance anxiety because the stakes are simultaneously too high for ego and too low for survival. Ancient hunters had stakes so high that ego disappeared and only pure necessity remained. You've experienced this yourself in moments of genuine necessity. Crisis brings clarity. Emergency reveals capability you didn't know you possessed. When something truly matters, you focus completely, and focused completely, you perform at your peak. Ancient hunters lived permanently in this state because their world was genuinely demanding in ways modern comfortable life rarely is. Their accuracy came from necessity focused by love, pressure softened by reverence, survival demands married to spiritual meaning. One hunter speaks to his spear before the throw. Fly true for my son. Fly clean for this generous deer. Fly with the blessing of all my ancestors who flew true before me. This isn't ritual performance. This is psychological preparation, reminding himself what matters, connecting to meaning deeper than ego, accessing the state where perfect accuracy lives. The spear does fly true because the hunter has placed himself in the consciousness where perfection emerges naturally. Think of something you do with deep care, with genuine reverence, with full heart. Notice how quality emerges naturally from that caring. You don't have to try harder when you care deeply. You simply perform better because caring aligns every part of you toward excellence. Ancient hunters cared completely about every hunt. Their families needed it, the prey deserved it, the sacred contract demanded it. This alignment of necessity, love, and reverence created accuracy. Modern hunters cannot match because they lack the meaning that produces alignment. As you rest here, processing this ancient truth, consider where deep meaning lives in your own life. What do you do with full heart? What matters so completely that excellence emerges naturally? Ancient hunters had hunting. You have your own forms of sacred responsibility. When you engage those fully, with complete presence, with genuine reverence, you discover capabilities that shock you because you've accessed the same state ancient hunters lived in constantly. This sacred relationship taught hunters to read signs modern people can't perceive, information written in nature itself, in the very air and earth, in their own bodies responding to changes others never notice. Sensitivity built across generations of careful attention to everything the world constantly communicates. Feel your breath as ancient rhythms continue, processing wisdom through rest, absorbing truths that settle deeper than conscious memory into the body itself where ancient knowing still lives. Hunters felt tomorrow's weather in their bones, a phrase modern people use casually without understanding it, was literal truth for those whose survival depended on atmospheric awareness. A hunter wakes 2 hours before dawn, and something feels different. The air has a weight, a texture, a subtle quality that speaks to him more clearly than weather forecasts speak to modern people. His knees ache slightly. His sinuses feel full.
His mood is heavier than yesterday.
These aren't random symptoms. These are his body reading, barometric pressure dropping, humidity increasing, storm approaching. He knows without thinking that today is wrong for the distant hunt. Today is for staying close to camp, for finishing the hide work that needs doing, for resting and preparing. Modern science confirms what ancient bodies knew automatically. Atmospheric pressure changes affect human physiology measurably. Joint fluid responds to pressure shifts. Sinus cavities react to humidity. Neurochemistry adjusts to electromagnetic field variations that precede storms. Ancient hunters felt these changes acutely because they paid attention, because they trusted body signals, because they had no technology overriding physiological information. Modern bodies still respond the same way, but modern minds ignore the signals, dismiss them as random aches, treat them as problems rather than information. Another hunter wakes, feeling extraordinarily energized, light, optimistic, powerful. Modern psychology might call this good mood inexplicable. Ancient hunters knew high-pressure system, clear weather coming, perfect hunting conditions. His body has responded to atmospheric changes with increased energy, improved mood, enhanced readiness. Today is hunt day. Today the throws will fly true because body and weather align in that subtle synchronization that creates optimal performance. This wasn't superstition. This was physiological sensitivity honed across 300,000 years of human evolution, lived outdoors, in weather, reading constant atmospheric messages through direct body experience. Modern humans have lost this sensitivity not through evolution but through inattention, through living in climate-controlled boxes, through treating body signals as noise rather than signal. But the capacity remains dormant, waiting for attention to reactivate it. A hunter teaches his son, your body knows what your mind cannot see. The storm that arrives tomorrow announces itself today through aching bones and heavy breath. The perfect hunting weather reveals itself through energy and clarity before the sun even shows the cloudless sky. Learn to listen to your body, not just your eyes. Trust feeling more than thinking. Your bones are older than your mind. They remember things your consciousness never learned. The sun practices this awareness, learning to notice how he feels each morning, correlating those feelings with the day's weather, discovering the reliable patterns. After years, he knows without weather signs what conditions approach. His accuracy improves because he hunts only when his body says yes. When the atmospheric conditions align with physiological readiness, when weather and wellness synchronize to create the optimal state for perfection. Remember a time your body knew something before your mind figured it out. A sense of unease before discovering danger. A feeling of certainty before receiving confirmation. A physical knowing that proved more reliable than logical analysis. That's ancient wisdom, still alive in you, still broadcasting information your conscious mind mostly ignores. Ancient hunters amplified this signal by trusting it completely, by making major decisions based on physical feeling rather than just intellectual assessment. They
Hunted before storms, not because rushing is good, but because
pre-storm atmospheric conditions create heightened alertness in prey animals, who sense the approaching weather and feed aggressively to prepare. A hunter whose body tells him storm approaches knows the animals know it too, and he positions himself where they'll feed before seeking shelter.
this isn't prediction.
This is shared physiological response to the same atmospheric information. Hunter and prey reading the same weather written in the same bone, creating synchronization that makes successful hunt inevitable. They rested during storms not because hunting is impossible in bad weather, but because hunting in wrong conditions builds bad habits, trains intention, creates neural pathways that work against accuracy. Better to rest completely, letting the body recover, allowing the mind to process, waiting for conditions that support excellence. Modern culture demands constant productivity regardless of conditions. Ancient hunters understood that timing matters, that working with natural rhythms produces better results than fighting against them. One hunter becomes legendary for never attempting difficult hunts in wrong conditions. Other hunters think he's lucky. He's simply obedient to his body's wisdom. When bones say today is wrong, he stays in camp, crafts tools, tells stories, rests deeply, and saves his energy for when body and weather align. His accuracy is perfect because he only shoots when conditions are perfect. And he knows conditions are perfect because his body tells him so with absolute reliability built across thousands of mornings of careful correlation. You still have this sensitivity, appearing as gut feelings modern life teaches you to ignore. That sense that today is wrong for important conversation. That knowing that conditions are right for starting new project. That physical feeling guiding timing better than calendars ever could. Ancient hunters lived by this guidance because they trusted body wisdom over mental override. They never missed, partly because they only shot when their bones said yes, when physiology and atmosphere aligned to create the state where perfection emerges naturally. As you rest here, notice how your own body feels.
Not judging it, just noticing.
There's information in these sensations, messages your body broadcasts constantly. Ancient hunters made survival decisions based on these messages because the messages were reliable when trusted consistently. Modern people override these messages constantly, then wonder why decisions feel wrong, why timing seems off, why results disappoint despite technical skill. The hunter checks weather by checking his body first, then confirming with observable signs, cloud patterns, wind direction, animal behavior. But the body reading comes first and proves most reliable because it's direct physiological response to atmospheric reality rather than interpretation of visual data. Your body knows before your eyes see. Your bones speak before your mind understands. This is older wisdom than thinking, deeper knowing than analysis. A storm approaches across the plains, visible as dark line on horizon 2 hours away. But the hunter knew 6 hours ago when he woke with aching joints and heavy breath. He's already prepared, already brought the children close, already secured loose items, already settled in for weather he felt approaching before it became visible. This advance warning, written in bone rather than seen in sky, gave him advantage that saved energy, prevented crisis, created comfort. Weather reading through body sensation provided information earlier and more reliably than visual observation ever could. Your own body is broadcasting weather information right now. Messages about sleep readiness,
About tomorrow's energy, about optimal timing for rest.
Ancient hunters listened to these messages completely, building accuracy partly through hunting only when physiology said conditions were right. Trust your body's wisdom now as you drift deeper into rest. It knows what your mind cannot calculate. It reads what your eyes cannot see. It's older, wiser, more reliable than conscious thought. Body wisdom extended beyond weather to understanding energy itself. The subtle differences between days when perfection is possible and days when rest is wiser. Knowledge that created the final advantage modern hunters completely lack. Community belonging enfolds you like ancient tribe around the evening fire. That warmth of connection to something larger than yourself. And in this belonging lies wisdom about motivation that modern comfort has obscured completely. Modern snipers are well-fed, well-rested, well-supplied with everything their bodies need. Ancient hunters were often hungry, sometimes desperately so, and this seems like terrible disadvantage until you understand how hunger transformed ordinary humans into legends. A hunter wakes on the 4th day without substantial food.
His stomach no longer growls.
That phase has passed. Now there's just emptiness, a lightness, a strange clarity that comes when the body shifts from fed state to fasting state. Modern science calls this metabolic switching, the transition where the body begins accessing stored energy and the brain receives ketones that sharpen focus, enhance awareness, create what ancient hunters simply called the hunger power. His vision is sharper this morning, colors more vivid, sounds more distinct. The smell of the herd they've been tracking hits him from half a mile away, information his well-fed self would have missed entirely. Hunger has stripped away the comfortable fog of satiation, revealing sensory capacity that stays dormant when food is abundant. This isn't pleasant, but it's powerful, and power matters more than pleasure when children need feeding. Watch him move through the landscape with the efficiency born of necessity.
No wasted motion.
No casual wandering. Every step purposeful, every action focused, attention narrowed to singular objective. Bring food home. Modern people with full bellies can afford distraction, can indulge wandering thoughts, can let attention scatter across multiple concerns. Hungry people focus absolutely because survival provides motivation beyond anything comfortable life generates. The successful hunter feeds the tribe. Children stop crying.
Elders smile with relief.
The band survives another cycle. This motivation, biological and social simultaneously, created intensity modern athletes spend fortunes trying to access through sports psychology and mental coaching. Ancient hunters lived in that intensity constantly because the stakes were always real, always immediate, always life and death compressed into the quality of single actions. But hunger's advantage wasn't just motivational, it was physiological. When well fed, the body prioritizes digestion, comfort, restoration. Energy goes to processing food, maintaining warmth, supporting the relaxed state of satiation. When hungry, the body shifts completely. Blood flow increases to muscles and brain. Stress hormones rise to optimal levels, not panic levels, but performance levels. Reflexes quicken. Reaction time decreases. The body becomes a finely tuned hunting instrument because that's what hunger demands. A well-fed hunter and a hungry hunter throw at the same target. The hungry hunter's spear flies faster, straighter, with more force generated from seemingly less effort. Not because hunger creates strength, but because hunger removes the physiological inefficiencies of satiation. The hungry body accesses capabilities the fed body keeps in reserve. Ancient hunters knew this practically even without understanding the biochemistry. Fast before important hunts, not as ritual, but as optimization. Modern research confirms that mild food restriction enhances cognitive performance, sharpens sensory perception, improves physical coordination. The hunter-gatherer body evolved to perform best when hungry because that's when performance mattered most. Well-fed humans could rest. Hungry humans had to hunt. The body optimized for the state that demanded excellence. Ancient hunters lived in that optimized state more often than modern people can imagine, and their accuracy reflected the enhanced capacity hunger provided. Feel the difference yourself in memory. Times when you were genuinely hungry and needed to accomplish something demanding. That focused intensity, that clarity of purpose, that absence of distraction. Compare it to attempting the same task after a large meal, when the body wants rest and the mind drifts easily. Ancient hunters understood this contrast intimately and used it strategically. Important hunts demanded hunger. Casual practice could happen fed. The body knew the difference and performed accordingly. One hunter hasn't eaten in 6 days. Modern doctors would call this dangerous, unhealthy, something requiring intervention. Watch him stalk a deer with focus so intense it's almost visible, awareness so complete that he seems to merge with the landscape itself. His throws this day are perfect. 3 successful kills that feed the tribe for a week. Not despite hunger, but because of it. The body in extremity accesses reserves impossible to reach from comfort, capacities that only activate when genuine need calls them forth. This wasn't glorification of suffering. Ancient hunters preferred being well fed, enjoyed abundance when it arrived, celebrated successful hunts with feasting. But they understood that comfort and capability don't always align, that the body's peak performance state doesn't match the mind's preferred comfort state. They accepted this reality and used it rather than fighting against it or pretending it away. When hunting demanded excellence, they arrived hungry. Knowing hunger would provide advantages, satiation never could. Your own peak performances came when something truly mattered, when comfortable options weren't available, when necessity demanded you access capacities you didn't know you possessed. Crisis reveals capability because crisis creates the physiological state where dormant abilities activate. Ancient hunters lived closer to crisis than modern comfortable life allows, and this proximity to necessity kept their capabilities active rather than dormant. The tribe's children haven't eaten adequately in 3 days. Not starving, but genuinely hungry, looking to the hunters with trust and hope. The hunters feel this weight, this responsibility, this love, expressed through the demand for perfection. One hunter speaks to another before they depart. "My daughter's eyes this morning." The other hunter nods, understanding completely. Those eyes, trusting and hungry, create motivation beyond anything sport or training or professional pride generates. You cannot miss when your child is hungry. The body won't allow it. Modern snipers shoot for abstract causes, for military objectives, for professional obligations that matter but don't pierce to the existential core. Ancient hunters shot for children's eyes, for elders' survival, for immediate, undeniable needs that transformed pressure into power. They couldn't afford to miss, not just practically but emotionally, not just strategically but spiritually. This complete alignment of necessity across every dimension of human experience created accuracy modern comfortable life cannot replicate. Think of someone you love completely, who depends on you, whose well-being matters more than your own comfort. Feel how that love focuses you, motivates you, calls forth capabilities beyond your normal range. Ancient hunters carried that feeling into every important hunt, intensified by hunger's physiological sharpening, focused by days of tracking, concentrated into single throws that couldn't miss, because everything and everyone that mattered depended on those throws flying true. As you rest here in comfort, appreciate what comfort provides: recovery, restoration, peace that allows integration and growth. But remember what hunger taught ancient hunters, that the body has capacities comfort never requires, capabilities that only activate under pressure, excellence that emerges only when necessity demands it. They never missed, partly because they often hunted hungry, and hunger transformed good hunters into legends. This intensity of motivation focused on one final element modern shooters completely misunderstand. One philosophical shift that changed everything about how accuracy works, how pressure affects performance, how single chances create mastery impossible in cultures that offer unlimited retrees. Emotional resolution flows through ancient understanding, completing today's journey toward rest. And in this completion lives the secret that separated ancient accuracy from everything modern training creates. Modern snipers can shoot multiple times, adjust, correct, try again.
Ancient hunters knew with absolute certainty, first shot only. Miss and prey scatters for days, maybe weeks.
This single truth transformed throwing from skill to sacred act, from physical ability to spiritual discipline. A young hunter prepares for his first solo kill, the rite of passage that will mark him as adult provider. His father gives him one spear, only one. Modern, you might think this is cruelty, setting him up for failure. Ancient fathers knew this was compassion, teaching the truth that creates mastery. Every throw is the throw.
No practice shots, no second chances.
No room for casual effort or partial commitment. The spear leaves your hand and life changes, either toward success or toward hunger, either toward adulthood or toward another year of waiting. Feel the weight of this philosophy. Imagine approaching any task knowing you have exactly one attempt, that the outcome determines not just success or failure, but survival or death, provision or starvation, pride or shame. Modern culture offers endless retries, saving and reloading, attempts until success comes through persistence rather than excellence. This seems kind, but it creates mediocrity. Training the nervous system that precision doesn't matter because another chance always waits. Ancient hunters lived under different law. Make it count. Every throw matters completely because every throw might be the only throw. This created perfectionism modern people can barely comprehend. Not neurotic perfectionism born from insecurity, but natural perfectionism born from reality. When second chances don't exist, first chances receive total commitment, absolute focus, complete presence. You can't afford distraction when everything rides on single action. Watch the young hunter with his single spear, stalking deer through the forest. Hours of patient tracking have brought him to this moment. The deer is in range, the angle is good, the wind is right. But he doesn't throw yet. He waits. And waits, breathing, feeling, becoming certain. Because once the spear leaves his hand, the opportunity is gone forever.
No reset button, no retry option.
Just result, permanent and immediate, determining his status, his family's opinion, his self-understanding for years to come. Modern research shows that pressure improves performance when paired with preparation. Ancient hunters lived ultimate pressure paired with ultimate preparation. Every childhood game prepared for this moment. Every practice throw built toward this moment. Every night's sleep processed skills for this moment. And now the moment arrives and the pressure doesn't create panic, because panic is luxury for people with second chances. When you have only one chance, panic gives way to preternatural calm, the absolute focus that emerges when there's no escape route, no backup plan, no alternative to perfection. The spear flies. Time seems to slow, that perceptual distortion that happens in moments of total consequence. The young hunter sees the trajectory, perfect and true, the spear rotating in flight with the precise spin he's practiced 10,000 times. The strike is clean, the deer dies quickly, the hunt is successful. The young man has become adult in single moment, in single throw that will never need repeating because it was perfect the first time, the only time that mattered. This first shot philosophy created accuracy modern second chance culture cannot achieve. When you know you can retry, some part of your nervous system holds back, saves effort, doesn't commit completely because failure isn't final. When you know the first attempt is the only attempt, every fiber of your being pours into that attempt with totality impossible when retry waits. Ancient hunters never held back because holding back guaranteed failure, and failure meant consequences. Modern people avoid through unlimited attempts. A master hunter teaching young students tells them the second chance is a gift you'll never receive. Plan for it and you've already missed. This isn't cruelty. This is liberation. When you know no retry exists, you stop dividing your effort between first attempt and potential second attempt. Everything goes into the first attempt because that's all there is. This complete commitment creates performance beyond what divided commitment ever achieves. Remember a time in your own life when you knew you had exactly one chance. An important conversation that couldn't be repeated. A crucial moment that wouldn't come again. A decision that would permanently alter your path. Feel how different those moments were from casual attempts where retry was available. That intensity, that focus, that absolute presence. Ancient hunters lived there constantly because their world offered single chances, not multiple attempts. Modern people practice for hours, developing skill through repetition, learning through trial and error. This works for building technical ability. But ancient hunters knew that technical ability means nothing without the psychological capacity to execute under unrepeatable pressure. They trained technical ability through playful repetition, but they trained psychological capacity through real hunts where no second chance existed. By adulthood, they'd succeeded under genuine first-shot pressure dozens of times, building confidence modern training ranges never create. One hunt defines this philosophy perfectly.
A band is starving, genuinely desperate, 3 days from death if this hunt fails.
One hunter, one mammoth, one throw. The pressure is absolute, the stakes maximal, the consequences of missing unthinkable. And the hunter is calm, perfectly calm, because he's been here before in lesser circumstances, building toward this ultimate moment through years of first-shot successes. The throw is perfect because perfection is the only option, and his entire life has prepared him to access perfection when retry doesn't exist. Think about how this philosophy applies to your own life. Modern culture teaches you to try casually, to fail safely, to retry endlessly until success arrives through persistence. Ancient philosophy taught complete commitment to singular moments, total presence in unrepeatable chances, absolute focus when everything rides on first attempt. Both approaches have value, but only one creates the kind of accuracy that seems superhuman, because it emerges from pressure modern people actively avoid. As you rest here, consider which moments in your life are truly first-shot moments, genuine single chances that won't repeat. Ancient hunters treated every important throw as first-shot moment because pragmatically it was. Miss and prey scatters. Modern people treat almost nothing as first-shot moment because retry is usually available. But the psychology of first-shot commitment creates excellence that retry culture never develops. They never missed, partly because they approached every throw as the throw, the only throw, the one that mattered completely. This perfectionism revealed itself in how they chose weapons, in the relationship between hunter and tool that went beyond utility into something ancient people understood as spiritual, but modern people might understand as psychological optimization, taken to ultimate expression through crafting, tools as extensions of soul. Dream preparation content unfolds, ancient knowledge for your sleeping mind to weave into wisdom, settling deep where conscious thought cannot reach, but understanding grows through rest. A hunter spends 3 months crafting his spear. choosing wood with care that seems excessive until you understand he's not making a tool, he's birthing a partner, creating an extension of himself that will determine his family's survival for years to come. He walks through the forest examining young trees, feeling their energy, sensing their readiness. Modern people think wood is just wood, interchangeable material. Ancient hunters knew every tree has individual character, specific qualities that make it perfect for certain purposes. This tree is too flexible.
That tree is too rigid.
This one grew in too much shade. That one suffered too much wind. Finally, he finds it, the tree that feels right in ways he couldn't articulate, but knows absolutely. The cutting is ceremony, prayers of gratitude, apologies for taking life, promises to honor the tree's sacrifice through perfect use. This isn't superstition. This is psychological preparation, creating reverence that will inform every moment of the crafting process, ensuring the spear receives attention and care worthy of its life or death importance. Modern craftspeople might understand this as mindfulness or flow state. Ancient hunters understood it as right relationship with tools that would become literal extensions of body. He works on the spear for hours each evening as darkness falls and consciousness softens towards sleep. The rhythm is meditative, scraping and shaping, feeling the wood respond to his hands, discovering its natural balance point, respecting its grain while guiding it toward purpose. By the time the spear is complete, he's touched it 10,000 times, felt its weight in every position, sensed its personality in ways modern people reserve for beloved pets or children. The spear isn't just familiar by completion, it's intimate. He knows how it sounds cutting through air at different velocities. He knows how it feels in his hand at different temperatures. He knows where his fingers naturally grip and how the balance shifts when he changes grip slightly. Modern snipers get issued rifles they're expected to master quickly. Ancient hunters spent months building relationship with weapons before ever using them for actual hunts. Watch him practice throwing his completed spear for the first time. He's thrown practice spears for years, but this one is different. This is his spear, crafted by his hands, infused with his attention, balanced to his specific strength and style. The first throw feels perfect in ways practice spears never did, not because it's objectively better, but because it's personally calibrated, tuned to him specifically, responsive to his particular way of moving, because it was created through his particular movement. Athletes with beloved equipment perform measurably better than athletes with generic equipment. Musicians with familiar instruments play with different quality than musicians with rentals. You with tools you've personalized, adapted to your preferences, used until they feel like body parts rather than separate objects. Ancient hunters took this principle to ultimate expression. Their weapons weren't equipment. They were extensions of self. External body parts crafted with the same care the body gives to growing itself. One hunter's spear becomes legendary, known throughout the region for never missing. Other hunters examine it looking for technical secrets. The wood isn't unusual. The point isn't special. The balance seems good but not extraordinary. The secret isn't in the spear itself, but in the relationship between spear and hunter. The 10,000 touches across 3 months of crafting, 100,000 throws across 5 years of use. The complete integration of tool into body schema until throwing isn't hunter using spear, but hunter. Spear is single entity expressing intention. Neuroscience now understands that the brain incorporates frequently used tools into body maps, literally treating them as extensions of physical self rather than external objects. Ancient hunters lived this truth without scientific understanding. They crafted weapons until the weapons became them, then used those weapons until the separation between self and tool dissolved completely. How do you miss when the spear is literally you flying toward the target? Feel this principle in your own life. Tools you know intimately work differently than unfamiliar tools. Your own keyboard types differently than any other. Your own car drives differently than rentals. Your own kitchen knife cuts differently than someone else's. Now, magnify that difference by factor of 100 by the intensity ancient hunters brought to weapon relationships, by the months of crafting and years of exclusive use that created bonds modern people reserve for romantic partners. A young hunter receives his first adult spear, crafted by his father with wood the father selected, shaped, balanced. The gift carries weight beyond material value. This spear represents years of the father's skill, months of the father's attention, compressed into tool the son will use for decade or more. The son understands this isn't just weapon, this is relationship, this is responsibility, this is connection to father and ancestors who crafted weapons this same way for 300,000 years. He spends the first month just carrying it, getting used to its weight, learning how it changes his balance, discovering how it feels in different positions. Modern people would mock this as overthinking. Ancient hunters knew this as essential integration, allowing nervous system to incorporate tool into self-representation. By the time he throws it in actual hunt, the spear isn't separate from him anymore. It's him, extended, expressing through wood and stone the same intention his body holds, flying true because it can't fly false when it's literally part of him. Modern snipers receive impressive weapons, technologically sophisticated, mass-produced to exacting standards, and those weapons work well, objectively better than Stone Age spears by every measurable standard. Yet, ancient hunters were more accurate because their inferior tools were superior extensions of self, calibrated through months of attention, integrated through years of use, beloved with intensity that transformed utility into unity. They never missed partly because their weapons were them, and how do you miss when you are the shot? As you drift deeper into rest, consider what tools you use intimately. What objects have become extensions rather than instruments?
Ancient hunters had their spears.
You have your own forms of extended self, things that work perfectly because you and they have merged through attention and time. This isn't metaphor. This is neurology, psychology, the truth that humans and tools form unified systems when relationship runs deep enough. Weapon intimacy combined with one more element modern training completely ignores. Something about how skill develops through play versus pressure that explains why child training creates adult mastery. Safe and warm, processing ancient techniques, your morning self will understand naturally, wisdom settling into the body where learning becomes permanent through rest. Hunter children played throwing games from age 3, starting with small sticks thrown at large targets, gradually progressing to heavier spears and smaller targets as coordination developed. Not drill,
Not pressure.
pure joy, laughter, competition that was playful rather than serious, games instead of training. By age 7, a child had thrown objects 10,000 times. By adolescence, 50,000. By adulthood, perhaps 100,000 throws, almost all of them performed in states of joy, relaxation, playfulness. Modern snipers train under stress, learning to shoot while instructors criticize, while timers pressure, while evaluation looms. This ingrains tension with skill, associating shooting with stress, building neural pathways that contain both technique and anxiety woven inseparably together. Ancient hunter children built neural pathways that associated throwing with joy, with laughter of friends, with satisfaction of play well done, with intrinsic pleasure of skill expression. When adult hunting brought genuine pressure, the skill itself remained joyful at neurological level. The stakes were high, but the action felt like play. The same movement that brought childhood joy now bringing adult provision. This emotional foundation meant perfect shots felt right.
Natural, pleasurable rather than tense, forced.
Anxious. Watch children playing hunter games in the late afternoon, throwing sticks at targets made from bundles of grass, keeping score in ways that matter intensely during the game but are forgotten by evening. They're completely absorbed, fully present, experiencing flow state that adults spend fortunes trying to rediscover. The best throws happen when they're not trying hard, when they're relaxed and laughing, when the competitive edge stays playful rather than becoming serious. This is ideal training, building skill in the psychological state where skill performs best. Flow state research confirms what ancient hunters knew intuitively. Skills learned joyfully perform better under pressure than skills learned under pressure. The neural pathways built during joyful practice run smoother, faster, more reliably than pathways built during stressed practice. Modern militaries train under stress to stress inoculate soldiers, but research shows this often creates stress sensitivity rather than stress resistance. Ancient hunters trained in joy and became stress resistant through different mechanisms. The skill itself was joyful at deepest level, so pressure couldn't corrupt it. One child becomes known for extraordinary accuracy at age 8, hitting targets other children miss consistently. Adults watch him play and notice he's more relaxed than the others, laughing more easily, enjoying the game more completely. His accuracy doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from being more present in the joy, more absorbed in the pleasure of throwing well. This is the secret modern coaches try to teach through complex psychology. Relax and enjoy. For ancient hunter children, relaxation and enjoyment were the only training they knew. By adolescence, these children throw with accuracy that would shock modern athletes, not because they're genetically superior or technically trained, but because they've built 100,000 joyful repetitions, every throw reinforcing the association between this movement and pleasure, between accuracy and happiness. When adult hunting brings genuine life or death pressure, the throws remain joyful at neural level. The conscious mind might feel pressure, but the body remembers joy, and the body's memory determines performance. Feel this yourself in memory. Skills you learned playing work differently than skills you learned under pressure. Riding a bicycle learned joyfully in childhood still feels different than driving learned stressfully in driving school. Playing music learned for fun performs differently than playing learned for evaluation. Ancient hunters ensured every crucial skill was learned in joy, preserving the neural quality that makes performance reliable under any circumstances. A father watches his son playing throwing games with other children and smiles with satisfaction. Not because the boy is winning, though he often does, but because the boy is fully present in the joy, completely absorbed in the pleasure. The father knows this guarantees future success more reliably than forced practice ever could. The boy is building neural pathways that associate throwing with joy, pathways that will serve him perfectly when adult hunting brings real pressure and genuine stakes. Modern education often crushes this natural learning joy, turning play into work, transforming intrinsic motivation into extrinsic pressure, teaching children that serious learning requires suffering. Ancient hunter cultures preserved play as primary learning vehicle, understanding that joyful repetition creates mastery, while pressured practice creates competence mixed with anxiety. They never missed, partly because missing felt wrong at visceral level, not because they feared consequences, but because accuracy was associated with joy, and missing disrupted that joy. Young hunters continued playful practice into adulthood, never losing the joy of throwing even as stakes became real. Before serious hunts, playful warm-ups. After successful hunts, celebratory throwing games. The skill remained play even when the context demanded seriousness. This separation of emotional foundation from contextual pressure is what modern sports psychology tries to create artificially through visualization and self-talk. Ancient hunters had it naturally through training that never stopped being play. Think about activities in your life that still feel like play, that you approach with joy regardless of stakes. That same quality, that joyful foundation beneath serious application, is what ancient hunters felt throwing spears at prey their families needed desperately. The stakes were ultimate, but the skill was play. And this combination of serious context with playful foundation created reliability modern training rarely achieves. One elder hunter, asked to teach advanced technique to young adults, takes them to the practice field and organizes games. The students are confused. We're adults now, we should do serious training. The elder smiles. Serious training builds serious limitations. Play builds unlimited capability. They learn the lesson reluctantly at first, then embrace it, rediscovering the joy they'd started to lose through thinking that adult skills require adult suffering. Their accuracy improves immediately, not because they learn new technique, but because they recover the emotional foundation that lets existing technique perform perfectly. As you rest here, processing these ancient truths, consider what you've learned joyfully versus what you've learned under pressure. Notice the difference in how those capabilities perform, how reliably they function, how accessible they remain under stress. Ancient hunters preserved joy as learning foundation, ensuring every crucial skill was built on pleasure rather than pressure. They never missed, partly because every throw, even under desperate circumstances, activated neural pathways built through 100,000 joyful repetitions. Pressure couldn't corrupt what joy had created. Joyful training built confidence for the ultimate challenge modern snipers never face. The pressure of genuine starvation stakes where missing didn't mean professional disappointment, but literal death. Watching the children you love waste away because your accuracy wasn't sufficient. Community belonging wraps around you. You're part of the ancient human family learning ancestral wisdom as you rest, held in the same web of connection that supported hunters through challenges modern people can barely imagine. The tribe hasn't eaten adequately in 4 days.
Real hunger, not the missing a meal discomfort modern people call hunger, but genuine deprivation.
The kind where children grow quiet and elders stop moving unnecessarily, and every person understands that survival depends on the next hunt's success. One hunter, one mammoth calf separated temporarily from its mother, one chance. Modern snipers train under simulated pressure, knowing that missed shots mean professional consequences, disappointed commanders, damaged reputation. Ancient hunters faced true starvation stakes repeatedly, knowing that missed shots meant watching children die, seeing elders fade, experiencing the tribe's dissolution through their personal failure. This created accuracy impossible to replicate through comfortable training. Watch the hunter approach his position, moving with careful silence through the early morning cold. His stomach hasn't been full in days, but the hunger sharpening is at peak now, providing enhanced awareness without the weakness that comes with longer fasting. His children's faces are vivid in his mind, not as distraction but as focus, their need channeling his capability toward absolute precision. This isn't pressure creating anxiety. This is necessity creating clarity. When children's survival depends on your accuracy,
Missing becomes literally unthinkable. The young mammoth grazes 30 feet away.
close enough for reliable throw, far enough that slight error means complete failure. The hunter's breathing is perfectly calm despite stakes that would paralyze modern people. How can he be calm when his children's lives depend on this throw? Because panic is luxury for people with backup plans, and he has no backup plan. The choice is simple: execute perfectly or watch children die. Faced with this binary, the nervous system accesses capabilities, comfortable life keeps dormant. Modern people experience debilitating performance anxiety because stakes are simultaneously too high for ego and too low for survival. Getting fired is scary but not fatal. Disappointing bosses is uncomfortable but not devastating. These medium-level stakes create maximum anxiety because they're significant enough to threaten but not extreme enough to trigger survival clarity. Ancient hunters had stakes so extreme that anxiety dissolved into pure focus. Ego concerns vanished into survival necessity. Everything non-essential fell away, leaving only perfect presence. Feel this difference yourself. Times of genuine crisis. When you discovered capability you didn't know you possessed. When fear transformed into clarity. When the stakes were so high that overthinking stopped and pure action emerged. Ancient hunters lived in that state during important hunts, accessing it not through psychological techniques, but through genuine necessity that automatically triggered optimal performance state. You can't teach someone to access this state. You can only create conditions where accessing it becomes necessary. The hunter's throw is perfect, the spear striking the young mammoth's vital area with precision that kills quickly and cleanly. The animal barely suffers. The meat will feed the tribe for a week or more. Children will eat. Elders will smile again. Life continues because accuracy was sufficient. The hunter doesn't celebrate dramatically. There's satisfaction, deep relief, but also simple recognition that he did what was necessary. The accuracy wasn't special achievement. It was basic requirement of keeping loved ones alive. Modern people might call this traumatic pressure, might worry about the psychological burden of such responsibility. But ancient hunters didn't experience it as trauma. They experienced it as life, as normal adulthood, as the sacred responsibility that gave existence meaning and purpose. The pressure was real, but it wasn't toxic because it was genuine, because it came from love rather than evaluation, because success meant children lived rather than supervisors approved. Consider the difference. Modern job pressure comes from artificial hierarchies, from arbitrary standards, from evaluation systems designed to motivate through threat. Ancient hunting pressure came from reality itself, from biological necessity, from loving relationships that depended on capability. One type of pressure creates anxiety and resentment. The other type creates focus and capability. They never missed under starvation pressure because that pressure was pure and real, triggering optimal performance rather than anxious inhibition. A hunter recalls his first starvation hunt. The first time, children's survival truly depended on his accuracy. He was terrified beforehand, convinced he would fail under such extreme stakes. But in the moment itself, the terror vanished, replaced by clarity so complete it felt almost transcendent. The throw was easy, effortless, perfect. Afterward he understood. The stakes that seem like burden are actually gift, creating focus that makes excellence inevitable rather than difficult. This seems paradoxical to modern thinking, trained that pressure degrades performance. But research shows the truth ancient hunters lived. Appropriate pressure improves performance when paired with adequate preparation and genuine meaning. Artificial pressure in training environments often degrades performance. Real pressure serving real necessity often enhances performance. The difference is authenticity. Your nervous system knows fake pressure from real, and only real pressure triggers the deepest capabilities. Think of your own moments of genuine necessity. Crisis that revealed strength.
Emergency that produced calm.
Desperate situations that somehow brought out your best rather than your worst. That's the same mechanism ancient hunters accessed regularly, not through pathology but through reality of living where survival required excellence, and excellence was possible because it was necessary. They never missed when children starved because biology itself wouldn't allow missing when continuation of genetic line depended on accuracy. One elder hunter, asked how to shoot under extreme pressure, gives answer that seems useless at first. Love someone completely, let them depend on you entirely, then let their need guide your hands. This isn't technique advice. This is wisdom about motivation, about the source of accuracy that transcends mechanical skill. When you shoot for someone you love more than yourself, you access capabilities selfishness cannot reach. Ancient hunters shot for children, elders, mates, tribe. The love focused them, the necessity guided them. The relationship created accuracy through mechanism. Modern individualism cannot replicate. As you drift deeper into rest, recognize that you have people you love this deeply, responsibilities that matter this completely. When you engage those relationships fully, when you allow that love to focus your capability, you discover strength similar to what ancient hunters accessed under starvation pressure. Not through suffering, but through commitment. Not through trauma, but through love. Not through pressure, but through sacred responsibility that transforms burden into power. Starvation, stakes, created accuracy impossible in comfort. But even in desperate moments, they maintained one practice that made the difference between accuracy and perfection. Between surviving today and thriving long-term, between technical success and spiritual completion. Yet even in desperate moments, they maintained one practice that made the difference, a ritual of gratitude that seems superstitious until you understand the psychology. Practical wisdom for daily life flows through ancient techniques, settling into your awareness like seeds that will grow into understanding tomorrow morning when you wake refreshed and somehow changed. Before every important shot, a hunter whispered gratitude. Not loud prayer, not elaborate ceremony during the hunt itself, just quiet words spoken internally or barely audibly. Thank you to the spear for flying true. Thank you to the years of training. Thank you to the prey for offering its life. Thank you to the land for supporting this moment. This wasn't religious superstition, though it may have had spiritual dimension for them. This was psychological preparation, creating the mental and physiological state where accuracy emerges naturally. Modern research on gratitude shows it produces measurable calming effects, lowering stress hormones, slowing heart rate, steadying breathing, creating exactly the nervous system conditions that support precise physical performance. Ancient hunters discovered this practically, noticing that grateful hunters shot better than anxious hunters, that thankfulness produced steadiness while desperation produced trembling. The ritual took perhaps 10 seconds, a brief pause before the throw, a moment of acknowledgement, a recognition of all the elements contributing to this moment. The countless hours of childhood play, the patient teachers who guided without pressure, the tree that gave its wood for the spear, the animal that will give its life for the tribe, the ancestors whose knowledge flows through this moment, the children who will eat tonight if accuracy is sufficient. Everything acknowledged, everything honored, everything woven into motivation that's pure rather than desperate. Watch a hunter in position, prey in range, the moment of truth approaching. Instead of immediate action driven by urgency, there's this pause, this breath, this quiet gratitude. To modern eyes, it might seem like delay, like hesitation that risks losing the opportunity. To ancient understanding, it was essential preparation. The transition from thinking state to acting state, from human consciousness to hunter consciousness, from separation to unity with the moment. After successful hunt, more elaborate gratitude.
Speaking to the dead animal,
Explaining the necessity, honoring its sacrifice, promising that its death will serve life, that nothing will be wasted, that children will eat and elders will smile and the tribe will continue because of this generous gift. Modern people might call this anthropomorphism, projecting human qualities onto animals. Ancient people understood it as psychological completion, creating emotional closure that prevented guilt from corrupting future hunts. The hunter who kills without gratitude begins accumulating spiritual debt, a heaviness that builds across successful hunts until shooting becomes difficult. Accuracy suffers, joy disappears from the activity. Modern psychologists might call this unprocessed trauma or moral injury. Ancient hunters called it disrespect, and they prevented it through systematic gratitude that honored both the taking of life and the service that taking provided. They never missed, partly because they approached each shot in grateful peace rather than desperate grasping. You can feel the difference yourself. Approaching any task with gratitude versus approaching with anxiety. The grateful state is naturally calmer, more present, more capable. The anxious state creates tension that interferes with precise execution. Ancient hunters built gratitude into pre-shot ritual, ensuring they always approached the critical moment from optimal psychological state. This wasn't elaborate, time-consuming ceremony. It was efficient, practical preparation that took seconds but transformed everything. One hunter becomes known for never missing even under extreme pressure.
other hunters ask his secret.
He tells them about the gratitude pause, the 10 seconds of thankfulness before every important throw. Some dismiss this as superstition. Others try it and discover immediate improvement. Not because gratitude is magical, but because it reliably produces the calm focus state where accuracy lives. Within generation, the gratitude ritual spreads through the entire region, becoming standard practice because it works, because grateful hunters consistently outperform anxious hunters. Think about your own life, your own challenging moments. When you approach difficulty with gratitude for your preparation, for your support, for the opportunity itself, the task becomes easier. Not objectively easier, but experientially easier, because your nervous system is calm rather than agitated. Ancient hunters used this principle systematically, making gratitude automatic before any action where accuracy mattered. You can use it too tonight and every night, building it into your own bedtime transition. Before sleep tonight, feel gratitude for today's small gifts. The comfortable bed supporting you right now, the safety of your shelter, the food that nourished you, the people who care about you, the body that carries you through life. Notice how this gratitude settles your mind, releases tension you didn't realize you were holding, creates the peaceful state where deep rest arrives naturally. That's the hunter's preparation working in your modern life. The same ritual adapted from hunting to sleeping, from throwing spears to releasing consciousness into dreams. The gratitude ritual worked because it incorporated another ancient secret, a technique so simple modern people overlook it entirely. Something about breathing that ancient hunters discovered through patient attention to their own optimal states, learning to synchronize with the world around them in ways that created invisible advantage. Sleep ritual suggestion settles into your awareness now. Let this ancient breathing become your bedtime transition, a technique you can use tonight and every night to ease the journey from waking to sleeping, from thinking to dreaming, from effort to effortless rest. Hunters synchronized breath with environment in ways modern people have forgotten are possible, creating harmony that made them invisible, steady,
Accurate beyond what isolated breathing could achieve. Waiting in wind, the hunter breathed with the gusts.
not consciously mimicking but allowing his respiratory rhythm to entrain naturally to environmental patterns. Wind picks up, breathing quickens slightly. Wind calms, breathing slows. This wasn't technique requiring concentration. This was natural synchronization that happened automatically when the nervous system relaxed completely, when boundaries between self and environment softened, when the hunter stopped fighting the wind and started breathing as part of it. On calm days, breathing slowed to match stillness. Deep, quiet breaths that barely moved the chest, respiration so subtle it created no visual disturbance, no sound, no ripple in the field of awareness that prey animals monitored constantly. This ultra-quiet breathing wasn't forced or uncomfortable. It was natural expression of deep rest, the same breathing you do in deepest sleep stages, accessible to ancient hunters during waking hours because they lived in that restful state habitually. Most importantly, at the critical moment of the throw, they breathed with the prey's rhythm. Watching an animal long enough, you begin perceiving its breathing pattern, the rise and fall of its sides, the rhythm of its existence. Ancient hunters, after hours of observation, synchronized their breathing to the animal's breathing, creating resonance that made them nearly invisible and, more importantly, that created the timing for perfect shots. The throw happened in the pause after exhalation, when both hunter and prey existed in the same empty moment between breaths. Modern breathwork practices try to teach what ancient hunters did naturally, using respiration to regulate nervous system, to create specific states of consciousness, to synchronize with environmental rhythms. But modern practices often feel effortful, require concentration, demand attention. Ancient hunters' breathing was effortless because it was responsive, allowing environment to guide breath rather than will, forcing breath into patterns. The difference between controlling your breathing and allowing your breathing to be controlled by the moment you're inhabiting. Feel your breath now. Don't change it, just notice it. It's already adjusting to your state of rest, already slowing naturally, already deepening as sleep approaches.
You're not making this happen.
It's happening because your nervous system knows how to prepare for sleep through respiratory adjustment. Ancient hunters had this same automatic wisdom for preparing for perfect shots. Their breathing adjusting to hunting needs the way your breathing now adjusts to sleep needs. One young hunter struggles with accuracy despite good form and adequate strength. An elder watches him practice and notices his breathing fights the environment instead of flowing with it. On windy days, he breathes against the wind, creating internal struggle that shows in his shots. The elder teaches him to surrender, to let the wind breathe him, to allow environmental rhythms to guide internal rhythms. The student practices this, and within weeks his accuracy transforms. Not because his technique improved, but because his breathing stopped fighting and started flowing. The teaching is simple. Breathe with your environment until sleep arrives naturally. Lying in bed, let your breathing synchronize with the quiet around you. If there's rhythmic sound, rain or wind or distant traffic, let your breath entrain to that rhythm. If there's silence, let your breath become the silence, barely perceptible, utterly peaceful. This synchronization signals to your nervous system that you're safe, that boundaries can dissolve, that sleep can arrive because you're not separate from the world anymore. Just part of it breathing, you can feel this happening right now. Your breath matching the peaceful rhythm of rest, no longer controlled by will, but flowing naturally in response to your state of deep relaxation. This is the hunter's technique applied to sleep. Environmental synchronization, creating effortless transition from waking to dreaming.
Ancient hunters used it for accuracy.
You can use it for rest. The principle is identical. Stop fighting, start flowing. Let breath connect you to the moment instead of separating you from it. In the final moment, before the throw, there's a pause, a space between breaths where everything stops. The hunter exists in this pause, in the gap between exhalation and inhalation, where the body is perfectly still, the mind perfectly quiet, the moment perfectly empty and perfectly full simultaneously. The spear releases from this emptiness, flying true because it emerges from stillness rather than from effort, from surrender rather than from will. You can find this pause yourself as you drift towards sleep. Between breaths, there's a gap, a moment of suspension where nothing happens and everything is possible. Notice that gap, rest in it. Let it expand naturally. This is the space where sleep lives, the emptiness where dreaming emerges, the pause where consciousness transitions from one state to another. Ancient hunters accessed this space for perfect throws. You're accessing it now for perfect rest. Use this every night. Breathe with your environment. Let the rhythm guide you. Find the pause between breaths. Rest in the emptiness. Sleep will arrive naturally from this state, the same way accurate throws arrived naturally for ancient hunters who understood breathing not as personal function, but as participation in environmental rhythm. This is practical ancient wisdom for your modern life. A technique that costs nothing, requires no equipment, works reliably when you stop trying and start allowing. Breath synchronization worked because of how they understood the body's center, where true power lives, where accurate action originates, where connection to earth provides stability that arm strength alone could never achieve. Protection imagery surrounds you now. Ancient safety symbols and concepts guard your rest. The same forces that protected hunters now protecting you across impossible distance of time. Modern people throw with arms, using shoulder and elbow and wrist to generate force and guide direction. Ancient hunters threw from deep core, from hips and spine and legs, from connection to earth itself, accessing power impossible from upper body alone. Watch a master hunter prepare to throw. His feet are rooted, not tensed but settled, weight distributed perfectly, connection to ground obvious in his stance. The power that will drive the spear begins in his legs, travels up through his core, spirals through his torso, and only finally expresses through his arm. The arm is guide more than engine, directing force that originates far below, channeling earth power toward sky target. This isn't just biomechanically superior, though it is. This is philosophically profound. Throwing from arms means throwing from ego, from the separated self trying to impose will on world. Throwing from core means throwing from earth, from grounded being that's part of the world rather than apart from it. One approach fights gravity, the other uses gravity.
One separates,
the other unifies. Ancient hunters threw from unity, and unity never misses because there's no separation between thrower and target. All traditional martial arts teach this principle: power from center, not extremities. Root in earth, draw from core, express through limbs. Modern sports science confirms what ancient warriors knew. Core-generated force is greater, more sustainable, more accurate than extremity-generated force. But ancient hunters embodied this so completely they couldn't have explained it. They didn't throw from core consciously. They simply threw. And the throw originated where power lives, in the rooted center connected to earth. You can feel your own core, even lying down. Not abdominal muscles, though those are involved. The deeper center, the place where balance lives, where strength originates, where you feel your body's connection to whatever supports it. Right now, that's your bed or couch. For ancient hunters, it was earth itself, and they drew their throwing power from that connection, the way trees draw growth power from roots, naturally and completely. A young hunter learns this through patient correction.
Stop throwing with your arm,
his teacher demonstrates, throwing a spear using obvious arm effort. The throw is adequate but limited. Now watch. The teacher throws again, same distance, but the movement looks effortless, starting from feet and flowing upward, arm barely seeming to contribute, yet the spear flies faster and straighter. The young hunter tries to copy this and fails repeatedly until he stops trying to do it and simply allows it, letting his body find the rooted power his mind cannot control. Modern people live in their heads, control from thoughts, act from will. Ancient hunters lived in their cores, moved from center, acted from being rather than thinking. This fundamental difference in where action originates explains much of their superior accuracy. They weren't trying to throw accurately. They were being accurate, and the throwing expressed that being rather than attempting to achieve it. The difference between doing and being, between trying and allowing, between separation and unity. Feel this principle in your own relaxed state. You're not trying to rest. You are rest.
You're not trying to breathe.
You are breathing.
You're not trying to exist.
You are existence. When action originates from this being state rather than from trying state, it carries different quality, works differently, succeeds more reliably. Ancient hunters shot from being, not from trying, and their accuracy reflected the effortlessness that comes from rooted center rather than effortful extremities. One hunter injures his shoulder severely, unable to use normal throwing motion. Modern thinking says his hunting days are over, but he discovers something profound. He can still throw accurately by emphasizing the core power he'd always used but never isolated. With minimal shoulder involvement, he throws from pure core rotation, pure hip drive, pure leg power. And his accuracy actually improves because the injury forced him to remove arm effort that was partially blocking the core power. His limitation became liberation. Think about activities where you feel rooted, grounded, powerful, not from muscular effort, but from centered being, standing firmly in conversation that matters, holding your ground in difficult situation. The metaphor of being grounded reflects reality. Power comes from connection to foundation, to earth, to core, not from flailing extremities trying to force outcomes. Ancient hunters understood this literally and threw from that understanding, accessing power modern arm throwers cannot imagine. Even lying down, sense your core. Feel how true strength lives there, not in flailing limbs. That centered power is always available, always present, always reliable.
Ancient hunters threw from there.
You can act from there in your own contexts, letting power rise from core rather than forcing from extremities. This works for throwing spears, for speaking difficult truths, for standing in your values, for any action that matters.
Root in center.
Let action flow from there. Watch how effectiveness increases when source shifts from trying to being. This core understanding creates stability, but timing determines everything. Power from center needs to release at exactly right moment. Not through conscious decision, but through surrender to the moment announcing itself. And this requires understanding when to release that ancient hunters mastered completely. Gentle transition to tomorrow's planning through ancient wisdom now, carrying these truths into sleep, where they'll weave into understanding you'll wake with naturally. Between decision and action lies eternal pause, the space where thinking stops and body knows, the gap where consciousness surrenders and excellence emerges without effort. Modern snipers train desperately to find this moment. Ancient hunters lived in it constantly because they never left it. Watch a hunter at the critical moment, prey in perfect range, conditions aligned, everything ready. There's no decision to throw. There's no moment of choosing. There's only the pause, the gap, the eternal instant where time stops and the throw happens by itself, released not by will, but by the moment itself announcing readiness. The spear leaves his hand and he doesn't remember releasing it. The action occurred in the space between thoughts. In the gap where doing happens without doer, athletes call this being in the zone, that elusive state where action flows without effort, where perfection emerges without trying, where the conscious self disappears and pure capability expresses itself. Sports psychologists write books about accessing flow state. Ancient hunters never left flow state. They existed permanently in that zone because they never learned the self-consciousness that creates separation between intention and action. For them, there was only the pause and the release, the eternal moment and the effortless perfection. This seems mystical until you recognize you've experienced it countless times. Catching something falling before fear registers. Speaking perfect words in crucial conversation without planning. Navigating complex situation with grace you didn't know you possessed. These moments happen in the eternal pause, in the gap between thinking and acting where excellence lives. Ancient hunters had developed their primary survival skill to occur in this gap, building accuracy that bypassed conscious control entirely. The pause isn't hesitation. It's not delay or doubt or uncertainty. It's the opposite. It's absolute certainty expressing itself through stillness before action. The hunter knows with complete clarity that the throw will be perfect, and this knowing creates the pause where that perfection gathers itself before expressing.
Modern people trying to force timing miss the pause, rushing into action before readiness announces itself.
Ancient hunters waited in the pause until the moment chose itself, until the throw released naturally rather than being forced by will. You're entering this pause right now as sleep approaches, that eternal moment between waking and dreaming where transition happens without you making it happen. You don't decide to fall asleep. Sleep arrives when conditions are right, emerging from the pause where consciousness softens and dreaming begins. Ancient hunters accessed this same surrendered state during crucial shots, letting perfection emerge from readiness rather than trying to force accuracy through effort. A master hunter teaches students about the pause by having them stand in throwing position for minutes at a time, feeling the eternal moment, learning to exist in readiness without rushing to action. Students find this torturous at first, wanting to release the tension, to complete the action, to finish the incomplete feeling. But gradually they discover the pause isn't tension, it's peace. It's the space where everything is perfectly complete before anything happens, where the result already exists before the action begins. This teaching seems paradoxical to modern minds trained that action creates results. Ancient wisdom understood that readiness creates results and action simply expresses readiness that already exists. The pause is the readiness becoming complete. The throw is just the overflow, the natural expression, the inevitable manifestation of readiness that has ripened fully. You cannot force fruit to ripen through effort. You can only wait for ripeness to announce itself, then harvest naturally. Ancient hunters applied this principle to accuracy. Feel the pause in your own drifting state, that space between thoughts where nothing happens and everything is possible,
That gap between breaths where you exist without effort.
that eternal moment right before sleep where you're not quite waking and not quite dreaming, but suspended between states in perfect potential. This is where ancient hunters lived during crucial throws, and this is where you exist now as rest deepens. Tomorrow morning, you'll wake briefly into this same state, that first moment of consciousness where you're present but not yet thinking, aware but not yet planning, existing but not yet doing. Notice that moment, rest in it. Feel how actions taken from that state have different quality than actions forced through effortful will. That's the pause making itself available to you, the eternal moment where ancient hunters found perfect accuracy offering itself to your modern life. They never missed because they never chose when to throw. The moment announced itself, the pause ripened into action, the release happened by itself. They were vehicles for accuracy rather than creators of accuracy, and this surrender to the moment rather than control of the moment made perfection inevitable. You cannot miss when you're not the one shooting. When the shot emerges from the pause rather than being forced by ego, when surrender produces what effort never could, as you drift deeper,
Let actions happen rather than making them happen. Let breath breathe itself. Let thoughts think themselves.
let sleep arrive rather than trying to sleep. This is the eternal pause becoming your natural state, the space where ancient hunters lived and where your best self lives too, waiting for you to stop trying and start allowing, stop forcing and start flowing, stop controlling and start surrendering to the perfection that emerges from readiness. All these secrets combined into one final truth, the ultimate explanation that encompasses everything else. The reason ancient hunters never missed that goes beyond technique and touches the very heart of what makes humans capable of impossible things when conditions align perfectly. Ultimate emotional resolution and complete psychological satisfaction flow through this final ancient blessing, carrying you gently toward the deepest rest, toward dreams that will process all you've learned tonight, toward tomorrow's awakening when you'll carry forward something precious from this journey through time. Modern snipers are deployed far from home, shooting strangers for abstract causes in foreign lands they'll leave after their service ends. Ancient hunters stood on grandmother's land, on grandfather's land, on great-grandmother's and great-grandfather's land stretching back through generations beyond counting. They hunted where their ancestors hunted. They tracked prey their parents tracked. They provided for family they'd known since birth and would know until death. Every tree held memory.
Every valley held story.
Every stream held meaning built across lifetimes of relationship. They weren't visitors in nature. They were nature, as much part of the landscape as the prey they hunted, the plants they gathered, the stones they used for tools. This complete belonging, this utter integration with place, created foundation for accuracy that displacement can never build. Modern snipers are strangers in strange lands, disconnected from the ground they stand on, shooting to accomplish missions handed down by distant commanders for reasons that may not fully resonate with their own values.
Ancient hunters shot to feed children they loved more than life, to honor elders who taught them everything they knew, to continue the tribe that was their entire world.
Every shot was homecoming.
Every success was return.
They couldn't miss because they were already home, already exactly where they belonged, already doing exactly what they were meant to do. This is why their accuracy is impossible to replicate through modern training. Not technique, not equipment, not practice regimen, context. They hunted with complete belonging to place, with utter clarity of purpose, with deep love for beneficiaries, with spiritual connection to prey, with joyful relationship to skill. with absolute necessity driving action, with community depending on success, with sacred dimension to every act. Modern snipers have none of this. Better weapons mean nothing without ancient soul. Watch a hunter wake on the morning of an important hunt. He steps outside his shelter and sees the same landscape his great-great-grandfathers saw. The mountains haven't moved. The river runs the same course. The trees are descendants of trees his ancestors knew. He's not visiting this place. He is this place, as much as hands are part of body, as much as leaves are part of tree. His accuracy will flow from this belonging, from shooting in home territory for home reasons, serving home purposes. The prey he'll hunt today are relatives, not enemies. Their ancestors and his ancestors evolved together in this place, predator and prey, creating each other across thousands of generations. He knows them because they're part of the same system he's part of, the same web of relationship that includes the plants they both eat, the water they both drink, the earth they both walk.
This knowledge isn't intellectual.
It's existential. He knows them the way you know your own family, through relationship rather than through study. His purpose is crystal clear. His children need food.
His elders deserve respect.
His mate requires provision. The tribe depends on capable hunters. There's no ambiguity, no complexity, no wondering whether what he's doing matters. It matters completely. It matters immediately. It matters in ways visible in the eyes of hungry children and the smiles of satisfied elders. Purpose doesn't get clearer than this, and clarity of purpose creates focus that ambiguity can never generate. Every throw is done with love.
Not sentimental love, but fierce love, protective love, provider love, the love that makes you capable of things you couldn't do for yourself.
He shoots for his daughter's bright eyes, for his son's growing strength, for his aging mother's comfort, for his father's pride. This love doesn't create pressure. This love creates power, channeling all capability toward single aim with intensity that selfishness cannot access. The spiritual dimension pervades everything. This isn't religion in the modern sense, not belief in distant gods requiring faith. This is direct experience of sacredness in the act itself, in the relationship between hunter and hunted, in the web of life where death feeds life and life honors death. The animal gives itself willingly to a worthy hunter. The hunter receives gratefully and uses completely. This exchange is holy, not metaphorically, but actually, creating meaning that transforms necessity into ceremony and violence into sacredness. His skill is joyful at its core, built through childhood play, maintained through practice, that never stopped being pleasure. Even now, facing desperate hunger, the throw itself feels like play, like returning to childhood games, like expressing something he loves doing, regardless of stakes. This joyful foundation makes pressure impossible to corrupt the skill, makes tension unable to interfere with accuracy. He shoots well under pressure, partly because the shooting itself was never not fun. The absolute necessity focuses everything. This isn't practice. This isn't optional. This isn't something that would be nice to accomplish. This is survival, immediate and concrete, success or starvation, compressed into single moments. But this necessity doesn't create paralysis. It creates clarity, stripping away everything non-essential, leaving only pure capability meeting pure need. The shot will be perfect, because perfect is the only option, and his entire life has prepared him to access perfect when only perfect will suffice. His community holds him, not with pressure but with trust. They believe in him completely. They've watched him develop from child to hunter. They've eaten food he provided countless times. They know his capability because they've witnessed it repeatedly. This trust creates confidence that individual doubt cannot undermine. He shoots not just for himself, but as expression of community capability, as representative of collective skill, as embodiment of shared knowledge passed through generations. The sacred dimension isn't added to these elements. It emerges from them. When belonging is complete, when purpose is clear, when love is fierce, when joy is present, when necessity is absolute, when community is strong, the act becomes sacred automatically.
You don't make it sacred.
You recognize the sacredness that was always there.
Ancient hunters shot from this recognition.
And the recognition made missing impossible because everything aligned. Every element supported every other element, creating coherence modern fragmentation cannot achieve. You can't become Stone Age hunter. That life is gone and trying to recreate it would be false nostalgia. But you can bring their principles into your life, adapted to your circumstances, applied to your challenges, integrated into your world. Find work that feels like home, not exile. Choose purposes that resonate with your core values, not imposed obligations. Serve people you genuinely love, not abstract entities. Develop skills through play, not just through pressure. Let gratitude precede important actions, creating calm rather than tension. Trust body wisdom over mental override. Listening to signals modern life teaches you to ignore. Build sacred relationship to your tools, whatever form those tools take in your life. Root yourself in authentic necessity, distinguishing between what truly matters and what merely seems important. Practice until action becomes effortless, emerging from readiness rather than being forced by will. These aren't nostalgia. They're human operating instructions ancient people never forgot and modern people are remembering. They worked for 300,000 years. They work now. They'll work tomorrow when you wake and find yourself somehow changed, carrying forward understanding you can't quite name, but definitely feel. As you drift to sleep now, feel yourself belonging here in this moment, in your bed, in your life, your home. From this feeling, tomorrow's actions will fly true. Ancient hunters proved this every single day. You belong exactly where you are. The distance you feel from your goals isn't real separation. It's just current position in a journey that's unfolding perfectly. You cannot miss when you're already home, when every step is right step, when every moment is right moment. Let these stories process in sleep. Your dreaming mind will weave them into wisdom. Tomorrow you'll wake remembering something important, not facts but feeling. The feeling of belonging so completely that missing becomes impossible, that excellence becomes natural. That accuracy emerges effortlessly from being exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you're meant to do, becoming exactly who you've always been beneath the layers of doubt and disconnection. Safe and warm in ancient wisdom, you rest tonight as hunters rested, knowing tomorrow's actions will flow true from today's understanding. Your ancestors never missed because they belong completely. You belong here now completely. Let this knowing settle deep as sleep arrives. The ancient human family wraps around you with protection earned across 300,000 years. You are home, you are safe. You are exactly where you need to be. Dream of perfect shots and guaranteed returns. Tomorrow you'll wake carrying something precious from tonight. The feeling of utter belonging that makes missing impossible.
Rest now, the hunt continues in dreams. Ancient wisdom processes while you sleep.
Morning brings the accuracy of homecoming. You are home.
You never left.
Like Stone Age hunters, you cannot miss when you're already where you belong. Sweet dreams of eternal return. Until we meet again by the ancient fire where stories continue and wisdom flows and belonging never ends. Sleep well, dear friend.
Sleep deep.
The ancestors watch over you. Tomorrow awaits and you are ready, more ready than you know, carrying forward 300,000 years of human excellence. Ancient accuracy alive in your modern heart. The hunter's wisdom woven into your dreaming soul. Rest now. You are home. You are held. You are loved across impossible time. Sleep comes gently. Dreams arrive sweetly. Tomorrow beckons with perfect promise. Good night.